Oh, coming up next on Who's Views, the Who-tastic panel.
This is Cyberchat on Who's Views. You know our ways. You can go touch grass.
Hello everybody, it's us at Who's Views. It is nice to see you and welcome everyone to Cyberchat. That takes me back a few years, I tell you. Remember we were all talking about Cyberchat? But no, it's great to see you all. Thanks for joining us as we start to celebrate who's second biggest baddie. I'm going to be asking you, is that fair? Is that a fair term? Is that a fair term? As you can see, I've got Paul, Kirsty, Emilio and George with me, all cyber ready, aren't you guys?
Mm-hmm. Well, we are indeed. I've got a friend with me as well. There we are.
Look at that. Let's have a look at that because that's obviously a character option one.
Character option. There we are.
All right.
Now, nice?
Mine are all in the box, Paul. So I've never seen the back. So let's have a look at the box.
Do it. You want to do a twirl? Is that what you're saying? Okay. There we go.
There's a twirl. Look at this twirl. Oh,
there we are.
Lovely.
The front's much better. Yeah. We got the camera right. There we go.
Incredibly detailed.
Nice? Yes,
they are, aren't they?
Yeah. You know, I grew up with the Dennis Fisher Cyberman, so.
Well, this one's got a nose as well, George. So
there's nothing wrong with those. If anyone has a Dennis Fisher Cyberman they don't want, it's whosviews1@gmail.com because mine melted decades ago. I left it. Apparently, I left it too near the radiator, which was supposed to be in my story. the tombs that they were coming out of. And he all got melted.
Did it all flake off? Because I had one like that.
It flaked off,
yeah.
Well, mine must be preserved for the last 40 years or so in an ice tomb then, because mine's holding up remarkably well.
Oh, shut up.
With the original box, I might add.
Oh, please. I am so jealous. Anyway, that's great. But yeah, nice to see you all in chat. Come into the chat if you're watching us live, because we are live here with you tonight on Who's Views. Farsight started us off. Beats, you will be deleted, upgraded any day. Yeah, that's for the saying there, isn't it? Because Stephen Braddock said, you belong to us, you will be like us. And Garbage is in the chat with us as well. Thanks, Garbage. Let's start off controversial. I like the Nightmare in Silver story. I really like Silver Nemesis. My first ever Doctor Who episode was Earthshock, and I loved Tomb of the Cybermen. I don't think there's anything controversial there, really.
Apart from Nightmare on Silver.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do think Tomb is one of the all-time Doctor Who grades.
Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great to see you all in the chat. Thanks for joining us. What we want to in this one, of course, is Ark in Space is saying, I've got my hands on my hips and my head gun at the ready. Well,
yeah. That's a different show entirely, isn't it, to be honest?
That's Mother Generation game. No, I love Larry. I love him. So it's good to see.
Can we include that moment on this show, the Generation Game Cyberman? Can we have that one on?
Did they?
Remember David Banks appeared in a mishmash of a Cyberman costume on the Generation Game with Larry Grayson, and they had different robots. They had Marvin, they had R2-D2, K9, and the Cyberman played by David Banks before he appeared as the cyber leader in Earthshock.
There you go. Paul's trivial bit there, everybody.
Yeah.
I do vaguely remember that, actually. It was really good. Yeah. I have to go back.
I'm glad I didn't imagine it then. That's fine.
Yeah. Paul Thomas Ashworth. It's PTA, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you for your super chat. The Cybermen terrified me as a kid during the Troughton era. I couldn't sleep at night, and my sister had to sit with me until I fell asleep. That's what we want. Scare the kids. Certain people need to understand that's what it's all about, especially the Cybermen, because bloody hell, they are scary, aren't they?
Oh, they are. Definitely, yeah.
And the whole setup of the Cybermen as well. That whole thing about, which actually to some extent has come true, hasn't it, in society today? Swapping over organic limbs or, I can't talk about it, but it has come true.
Pedler was right, definitely. Yeah.
Are we talking about the government now?
Well, That's dodgy as well, isn't it? But yeah, it has, hasn't it? I mean, what Kit Pedler, Jerry Davis, who created these things 59 years ago, because this is the eve actually of the Cybermen's 60th anniversary, if my maths are correct, which they usually aren't. But yes, so yeah, we're getting ready for that big one as well. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, the 1960s, they're looking ahead at this as the scientists that they were, the huge big fans of it as well. Amazing, isn't it, that they got it so near to the knuckle?
Yeah, visionary.
Yeah. As you can see, we've got two youngsters with us tonight as well, everybody. We've got Kirsty and Emilio here. I'm delighted about that because they
I did to check on that, George, didn't you?
We've got Digby as with us as well. Thank you for your super chat, Digby. My secret shame is that I love Revenge of the Cybermen in all their disco glory. It's Revenge of the Cybermen, guys, that I come into first meeting the Cybermen, of course. And I was very young. I was about 5-6 years old. But I actually remember the Cybermen from Revenge of the Cybermen. I remember being actually quite scared of them. I didn't care that they may have been from the disco era. I was terrified.
There's no shame there, Digby. The Revenge Cybermen are my favourites. Again, of that age. I saw Revenge of the Cybermen when it first went out, and it was just this fantastic space adventure that went at 100 miles an hour, and the Cybermen were just fantastic.
But they look like Cybermen.
They do. I remember seeing this as well on Revenge of Cybermen on first broadcast, but I remember more vividly was seeing the trailer for it and being so excited by the trailer. It was fantastic.
What tell us about the trailer? What was in the trailer? Because I don't remember that.
Well, it was a mixture of mainly Cybermen shots, like the kind of the cliffhanger bit. Is it part 2 when they arrive on the beacon? And it was just so exciting when they shoot at people with that lovely gun in their head. It's great.
Yeah.
And any story that's got the line, "We're still heading for the biggest bang in history," can't be all bad.
I love the line of that. We're overrun by Cybermen. How many? 2 at least.
We've got this remark in space. I will defend Revenge of the Cybermen with my head gun, although I do like the Moonbase, the Tomb Cybermen. They are excellent. And Bill, hiya, Bill Lowry. Nice to see you. Cybermen in concept are terrifying, certainly more so than in most executions. Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
So did you, Emilio, come to the Cybermen obviously with the reboot? Was that, do you remember the David Tennant one?
Yeah. The Rise of the Cybermen, Agent Steel, that's when I kind of jumped into it. What I didn't realize is obviously those Cybermen are not obviously the original Cybermen. They're almost like the Cybersmen, if you want to call them that. So it's only later I kind of then kind of realized, then there's the real or proper Cybermen from the I guess our universe in Doctor Who terms, basically, and that they had their whole history in Mondas. So I did go back and watch some of the classic Cybermen stories after that.
Fabulous.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't think, if I'm honest, apart from World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, I don't think apart from that first 2-parter in Tennant's era, I don't think the Cybermen have really been given much justice really for what a terrifying concept they can be. So I think a lot of New Who, they've missed the trick, in my opinion. I'm not sure if Kirsty agrees, but yeah.
Well, I remember, I don't know if you remember that BBC used to have, like, in the radio, they used to have the wee tiny clips of, especially season 2, of what was happening, so that you'd hear the doing of them stomping, or it was the season finale with like the Daleks versus the Cybermen. So you'd hear noises of that, and it would advertise it on the radio. And I remember, because that was the first time I saw the Cybermen as well, and that 2-part, and like the concept of like the parallel universe as well. And I was just like, hell yeah, balls to the walls, I'm in it, I'm with you. I totally agree with Emilio. I don't think the Cybermen have done justice. The only other time, I think, with the whole Cybermen with Missy and any of the Matt Smith Cybermen kind of interactions, but the one with Bill, when she got turned, she was in the ship.
And she looked like this.
Yeah.
Is that her?
It is, yes, it is, yes.
Horrific.
Been signed.
Yeah, when you think of that as well, that is absolutely horrific. So those two are the only thing like for this iteration of Doctor Who that has had any sort of spice to it. If you want Cybermen, you've got to go classic to it. But
I think that isn't that episode, Kirsty, where they switch between the imagery of where Bill realizes that she is a Cyberman, and the directing is amazing in that, and in how she kind of slowly, kind of realizing, and the Doctor's obviously looking at her as, they switch between her looking at Bill and the Cybermen. I think it's done really beautifully.
You can see the trust between Capaldi and Mackie in that scene that they had to give it everything, and it's heartbreaking and horrific at the same time of what this can happen and the changes and Bill not realizing as well. And some of that season was iffy, but that was a highlight, and that was that was scary Doctor Who for me. Not like your monsters, but that whole concept, that was scary.
The bit with the people in the bandages. With the buttons going pain, that was horrible, but really
when I watched that, I remember thinking, okay, somebody's stolen what I always thought about the 10th Planet Cybermen here, because ever since I managed to see the 10th Planet, I always thought there was something surgical about those original designs. To me, the idea was always, they'd been through numerous operations, all sorts of procedures and all the rest of it, and that's what their trashed bodies looked like at the other end of it. So when that came about in that Peter Capaldi episode, I did sit there and think, oh, great minds think alike.
No, they did really well with it, and I think the 10th Planet Cybermen worked really well, particularly because of a couple of happy accidents. Really, the eyes particularly.
Yes,
really
you can see the human eyes.
And likewise, I think that they had gloves originally, but something happened to the gloves, so they had bare hands instead, and that worked so well.
Yeah,
have that kind of Frankenstein quality to them. It's really good.
Sandra Reed, the costume designer, realized on the day of the first day of recording that she forgot to order the gloves that should have gone with the costume, so she just silvered the hands.
Quite right. But it does work much better, doesn't it? I think it's fascinating to hear what Kirsty and Amelia were saying there about their introduction to the Cybermen, because I was never that impressed with the version of the Cybermen that came about, because we knew it was going to happen. We'd had the Daleks in the first series. It was bound to happen with the Cybermen came through. But when I saw the publicity shot, which was this one, I know you're all going to remember, I just went, no, too metallic, too much. It's gone too much. That to me is a robot. It's not a Cyberman. It's a robot. Do you know what I'm saying?
You can see the influences there, can't you? Though it's a mixture of C-3PO and Maria from Metropolis, kind of.
Exactly what I was going to say, Paul. And that's what I remember saying at the time, thinking the only thing I can see here as a Cyberman are the eyes. And then when they came on screen, and Kirsty mentioned it, there it was all that stomp, and all that hydraulic thing. I thought, no. And then I didn't understand what Amelia was saying. I didn't understand that. Why was it a parallel world as well? Was it so they could bring in this new version of the cyber? But I love the fact that Kirsty and Amelia were saying to get some proper cyber action, you have to go back to proper Doctor Who. I love that, Amelia.
The problem with new Cybermen, so just was with the fact that they were always playing second fiddle to someone else, like the Master or Missy, and they never had a real story about them. That was a problem,
Yeah, that's true.
All I can say, Amelia and Kirsty, if you want some proper cyber action, see if you can track down some TV comic picture strips from the 1960s where you have 10th Planet Cybermen on skis.
I think with the modern, when the modern show came back, and the reason why they did it, I understand why they did the kind of parallel universe thing, because they're trying to show that no matter what human society it is, that basically their parallel evolution, that the Cybermen will come about, right, with technological change. So they are going to look different to the current universe's Cybermen. They are going to be different to.
I've never thought about that, Amelia.
You can understand why they went in that kind of maybe more kind of robotic area. I really get annoyed with the Cybermen in the Matt Smith era and the kind of the newer one, because they become basically like Iron Man and just like any other robot. I think the balance is, you don't want to make them too robotic, because you also need to remind the audience that, by the way, there's human beings that are had been converted, and I think that idea is probably not displayed visually in New Who, as apart from when they brought back the Mundasian Cybermen, but also in the stories, they haven't really tapped into that apart from those two stories, which I think that's what you really want to get into. That's the horror aspect that they need to bring more to the table.
A version of it in the season 2 finale. It was when Tracy Ann Orban, when they were doing Torchwood, and she gets to, and she's going like, "I serve my queen and country. I serve my queen and country."
The bride's quite good as well. The bride that misses her wedding day, she's got the emotional inhibitor, and the doctor tampers with it, and she can hear her pain and stuff. That's really well done, I think.
I think it's Sally, isn't it? Her name.
Sally,
like a husband Gareth or something, and they really try to play on that. Yeah.
I wanted to
say when they get their emotions back at the end of that story, that works really well as well. It shows you the side of them that were human. They have emotion, they all go mad, which is fabulous. I like that. Yeah.
I'm going to come to asking Emilio and Kirsty in just a couple of seconds which original proper Doctor Who story introduced them to our Cybermen. But before that, let's get into the chat because we've got lots of comments here from everybody. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us for our celebration, at the start of our celebration of the Cybermen. This is just the start, by the way. We do have a big series plan which will take us into their big anniversary next year. Okay, so stay with us. Make sure you've subscribed to the channel. If you and just stay with us because it's going to be a big one. This one, Mudcrab is saying one of my early memories of Cybermen was calling them Cybermen and being berated by my sister for the error. Oh, bless you. And I put one up there from John Roberts. John, nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Attack of the Cybermen is my favorite, and then Tomb. Yeah, fabulous. Mark is with us, Mark Milford. In sci-fi, technology felt like magic. It made the world better. The Cybermen showed us when technology goes wrong, and it's very, very scary as well. Farsight, good to see you. Those first New Who Cybermen were disappointing. Too much C-3PO and RoboCop. Yeah. Well, that was pretty... Well, yeah, it was pretty obvious, wasn't it, from that publicity picture they put out. Dot Martin, hiya. The New Who Cybermen haven't hit the mark for me. I liked World Enough and Time. That's the Capaldi one, isn't it?
That's the second last Capaldi episode, or third last, depending if you count Twice Upon a Time.
Can't remember. But they're based on the classic version, right? Yeah. And Carwin is saying to us the classic are scarier because they have a touch of Uncanny Valley where they are human, but not quite. The new ones are too robotic. Nice to see the Legion of James in there as well. Thank you. Michael is with us. Hi, Michael Q. Good to see you. Digby is saying the Dr. Falls had great parts. Yes. Richard Brooks is with us saying the Earthshock Cybermen are still humanoid. Metal has seeped into their tissues. You can see the chin through the mask. The suit is a life support protective covering. A brilliant idea that went away. There was a reason for that, though, because obviously that glass plating, the plastic plating, was getting steamed up, wasn't it, by all the actors? So
well, also, you remember there's a story that David Banks had a radio mic that kept coming down. You could see it. The painter, remember?
Yeah, you can see it, which is such a shame. Paul Stenterford, I love the fact, unlike a lot of Doctor Who monsters, the Cybermen don't just want to kill. They want to turn us into them, which I find even scarier. It's horrific that you will be like us, which is, of course, is the mantra of certain fans today. But, you know, it's very scary, that whole thing, isn't it? It really, and of course, it was emulated by that other sci-fi thing from America. What's it called again? That other thing. I can't remember what it's called. That show in America. Yeah, that one. Just kidding. Paul Thomas Ashworth, PTA, agreeing with Kirsty. Moffat mostly ruined the Cybermen, and Stephen Braddock is also saying dead right, Kirsty. Yeah, absolutely on that one. Graham, I remember the double-page pic of the Cybermen from the invasion, and so wanting to see that story. Took a while though, didn't it, to see that one?
Yeah.
So let's have a look then. I'm going to ask Kirsty and no, guys. I'm going to ask the youth here.
You go first, George.
After seeing Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, guys, what story did you go to first of all in proper Who to see our Cybermen, the proper Cybermen?
I haven't actually fully seen much, but Revenge of the Cybermen, my dad telling me about it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
2006 kickoff for the Cybermen. And from the previous year when we first saw the Daleks with the episode Dalek, and get a full-blown PowerPoint presentation of where the Daleks have come from, pretty much got the same with the Cyberman as well. And I know
I love your dad. He sounds superb.
he is.
Here's one I
like
heard
that.
earlier.
Yeah. Oh.
So seeing it from there, because Tom was his boy, and knowing like he's had run-ins, or like especially like the Triton era and how it kicks off with Hartnell. But yeah, Tom Baker, Revenge of the Cybermen.
It's amazing to think as well that Tom only met the Cybermen once in 7 years. That shows you how his era was so different to what you get now, because they're in it all the time, I think, now.
Yeah, they're overused.
Yeah.
Really, that's the problem. Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
What about you then, the best dressed man in London? What do you think? Or where did you go? Where was it? Which story did you see first?
I fell in love with the John Pertwee era and Unit, and I decided to kind of go back to watch The Invasion, because that was the first kind of story I believe that they appeared in. So that was the first one I kind of went back to and watched, and then I watched Earthshock. But yeah, I'll be honest, and then Tomb of the Cybermen, but I haven't watched the others. I've not gone back to watch the kind of Hartnell 10th Planet and the really, really early stuff. Although I do love the design of the Mondasian Cybermen.
All right. Well, isn't it great that, at least, the new fans that were coming in, guys, were doing really what I suppose we hoped would happen with the reboot. They were going back to what they call classic and what I call proper. They were going back to see where everything originated. I think that's fantastic. And don't forget, as I say, Who viewers, this is the start of our cyber season. Next week we are reviewing the 10th Planet, and the week after we're going to be reviewing The Invasion. So you've got plenty of warning now to go with it.
I put the link for the 10th Planet in the chat, so you can hit it and remind yourself to come back and see us next week.
Yes, very exciting stuff on that one. Ooh, I'm thrilled. Mark A writes with us. Hi, Mark. New Who Cybermen are too stylized and Art Deco. Kirsty is absolutely spot on. Mondasian Cybermen are truly terrifying and heartbreaking all at the same time. And Paul Roughton is saying the Cybermen have never been right in New Who. They always miss the mark until we got Mondasian Cybermen again. But then they ruined that a bit by crowbarring more modern ones in. Now, I'd actually forgotten that because I've watched it once. I wasn't that impressed. I thought the first episode, which was called
World Enough in Time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was the second one called then?
The
Doctor Falls.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so
I actually think that worked. By the way, sorry, JT. I think in that episode it worked having the different iterations of the Cybermen, because the whole point is that if you're closer to the ship, closer to the side of the black hole, time goes. Is it quicker or slower? I can't remember which way around it was. So when they're basically fighting for survival in one of the floor levels within the ship, the Cybermen are trying to, they're going to evolve over time. So they actually quite utilize that kind of utilize that quite well with the existing designs. I'm not saying I wouldn't prefer better evolutions of the Cybermen in terms of the design, but I think they made it work in that story specifically.
I love the way, Emilio, how this evening you are clearing up various points I haven't taken in before about some of these stories. That's really good. Thank you so much for that.
I have to say, I agree with you, GT. I don't think the second episode works as well. The first episode is really good setting it up.
Yeah.
But Stephen Moffat always does that. The first episode is brilliant, and never proper payoff on part two, which is really shame.
I wish it just been. Sorry, I just wish it had been just the Cybermen though, because he threw in the Missy character and then he brought back the Master.
Yeah,
and I didn't like that. I just thought that was awful. I think it should have been another. If he wanted that sort of human character thing, it should have been one where the Cyberman process had failed or something like that. But I have to say, they looked pretty good. And of course, we know this was all done due to the fact that Peter Capaldi wanted them back.
I think they look okay, but I think they've kind of, could have taken away the height of the light and the chest unit's different as well. I don't think they do them quite as much justice as the original does, to be fair.
Oh no, the originals are far better, but this is a good attempt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're far better than things like the redesigns of the Silurians.
Yeah.
I mean, by that time, I was only dipping in and out of Doctor Who every now and then. I wasn't watching it regularly, but I did see those two episodes, and I, credit where it's due. I think that first episode with the 10th Planet Cybermen was actually really good.
Yeah.
But the second one, I just thought was so far behind the first episode. It was just a space battle, and that was it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the issue, George? I find when the Cybermen turn just into another army, robot army, you kind of, in New Who, in particular, they tended to go down that route. Because the first episode really focused on the horror and the psychological and the imagery. Then the second part just goes into the Cybermen are just basically foot soldiers. Which you can do to a bit, but it has been massively overdone in New Who, and it become a little bit boring personally once you get to that point.
It's been a good long while since I've seen them, but I do remember thinking that second episode didn't sustain the drama. It didn't hold my attention. It really didn't pack the punch that the first episode of that two-parter did.
Well, Stephen Moffat does a lot. He does this. He jumps a huge away from the cliffhanger and jumps forward in time, and you miss a huge chunk of what happened next. It's really odd, you know.
I have to agree with George because I don't remember it. I remember bits of the first one. I remember thinking this is an interesting concept because they were on this ship that was traveling through different points of something was going wrong with it. It was all different time. I remember being quite generally concerned with where the character of Bill was going, thinking, "Oh God, they're going there again, and it's another Cyberman one." If you know what I mean, they're going to kill off another one, and the Cybermen are responsible.
But they didn't kill her off, did they?
No.
Didn't they? Oh, well, no. I don't know what happened because by the time I got to that second one, all I remember was, Capaldi's going in this one.
Yeah.
And then there was a big pop out at the end.
No.
And I thought, what the hell? And that's where it got switched off and it never went back on until we started this channel and we started looking at the rubbish last year. But yeah, that was it with me. But I'm with George on that one. I can't remember much about it. Dibby Strawberry saying, love the invasion. It felt epic. You're going to love it then. Come and review it with us in 2 weeks' time. And problem being, hello, mate. World Enough in Time should have had more variations of the Cybermen. Where were the Earthshock ones? Where were the Wheel in Space ones? Where were the Invasion ones? Well, couldn't afford to remake them all, could they really? And they wouldn't dip into any of the blooming exhibitions, I suppose. Hello, Kirk. Kirk Stacey's with us. Loved the Cybermen, preferred them to the Daleks. Sadly, the Cybermen have become an overused product in the new series and by Bog Fanish, also known as the Doctor Who Impressions Show. Oh, that's an idea for a show. Yeah. The Doctor Who Impressions Show. Lots of you in the chat telling us exactly. What's this from Mark? Mark Reeves is saying, am I right in remembering that New Who Cybermen didn't have the gold allergy like in the classic show?
Well, is it Nightmare and Silver? There's a reference to that because they can upgrade themselves, so they did away with that weakness years ago, so they can keep upgrading themselves again and again, and they're invincible, which is really boring.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's he uses it on when he would because he's being taken over by the cyber planner. So he basically to kind of get the cyber planner out of his head, he uses the gold, doesn't he, to kind of do it? But as you say, it doesn't work.
I love Matt Smith, but that scene was awful. Absolutely awful.
I can't remember it.
Yeah.
It looks like 7 of 9 with the thing. That put me off. It looks like 7 and 9 from Star Trek.
Oh yes, those implant things, didn't it? You're right.
Yeah.
I remember thinking the same thing at the same. I think this is another Star Trek thing. You're right, Kirsty. No, I agree with you on that one as well. I want to say hello to Farsight again. And he's saying those Whittaker mishmash ones were awful. Why would they have those horn-like things on their arms? It's totally illogical. Right, I'm going to put it out there right now, everybody. Yes, we are going to be talking about the Whittaker Cybermen in this show. Now, George and I know bloody bog all about them, so we'll be quiet with that. But the other three can lead out. But stay with us because yes, for once, we are going to be looking
don't let put you off. Stay tuned, yeah.
Because I've got a lot. Because looking at those pictures, I was like, "What are they? Are they going into? Are they going into an 80s club or something? What's happening there?" Thank you everybody for joining us. It's great to see you. Digby's already mentioning these Cyberlord things. We are going to be talking about them. Mark is with us saying, "Revenge was my first Cyberman story, so it's number 1, but Invasion is my second favorite." Sean is saying to us about that discussion. That's because the first part of the story is the easiest to write. You can take it where you want to. It's the payoff that shows the quality of the writer, which Moffat always fails to achieve.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, me too.
It's hard. It's hard to disagree with it, though, isn't it? When you've watched what happened, and RTD is the same. You get this big bill, and then the second one, we'll wind back time, a la Superman the movie. Or it didn't happen. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they do something silly like, and then such and such woke up and
it's not beyond the pale, is it? Let's be honest.
No.
There's no sense of control. It seems like they, especially with Moffat, it's like you've got one good idea, focus on that idea. You made that first episode horrifying. Continue that. Pay it off well. No, he got so much stuff going on in his brain. He wants to jump from one thing to the next. It's just kind of like, you know, they I think Moffat in particular needs somebody just to sit down there and go, no, you need to rein it in. You've got great ideas. You've got loads of these interesting stuff, but you just got to focus and harness on one idea.
Do you know what, Emilio? In our day, we used to call that a script editor.
Yeah.
It seems to have disappeared in New Who. I must admit, says Stephen Braddock, with a lovely picture there of one of the Tomb of the Cybermen's coming out. Can you see that? Send that to us.
Lovely, very nice. Lovely, yeah.
Stephen is saying to us, I must admit, I prefer the Cybermen who were creepy and in the shadows, slowly taking over, such as the Moonbase and the Wheel in Space and the Invasion.
Yeah.
Stephen, that's why the new ones didn't work for me, because you could hear them coming from down the streets. Whereas in our day, of course, they would creep up behind you and get you. A la Tegan in Earthshock. She didn't hear the bugger coming up behind her, did she? No. That's quite scary. The Cybermen are still alive, said Mudcrab. That is the point of them. They were a dying race and did what they needed to do. They still live. That's been forgotten over the decades as well, really, isn't it? They're not robots. I mean, bring back the horror of them. And Doc Martin, I always thought the Earthshock style Cybermen looked depressed.
Yeah.
We're coming to that.
Ooh.
The true horror of the Cybermen should be a subtext, so it's an adventure show, not an actual grim, disturbing horror. But at least Moffat was trying for something interesting. Well, I suppose so.
Yeah.
I suppose so. So yes, Doc Martin. So of course, the Cybermen are gone for years and years and years from Doctor Who, and we didn't really miss them. I don't think. I think we all got swapped up in the Tom Baker stories and the adventure of it and what have you. To me, it was a vague memory growing up with the Tom Baker Doctor. You know, they had been around. Didn't see them again. Wasn't bothered. And then we got the biggest surprise of all back in 1982, didn't we?
Oh, we did. That was a good time to be a fan. That was a fantastic reveal. The cliffhanger of part one of Earthshock, superb. Absolutely.
I hurt my bum because I fell off the sofa, and I remember it to this day, just going,
Cybermen. That was like your.
It was I remember screaming, the Cybermen. Yeah. It was such an amazing cliffhanger, and it doesn't have the same impact now because you had to be there on that night, you know. And it was just intense. And that design of them as well just really captured the 80s for me. You know, it was just so good. So, you know, I mean, Kirsty, you've not seen Earthshock yet, have you? You've got that lovely thrill to come. Emilio, you have. What do you think of the Cybermen in that story?
I'll be honest, my memory of it is quite hazy.
Oh, that's not fine.
But I would agree with the person.
Let me remind you. Here you are.
Hold on, Paul. Keep that going. Hang on. Here we go. Show us again.
Excellent.
Let's have a look at the back. So, give us a twirl.
There we are.
The detail
Cyber
on that.
Bahuki there. There you are. Yeah.
No twirl.
It looks just like they did in Earthshock. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
stuff.
beautiful
Lovely,
detail. All right. Yeah.
I would say just from very, very, very vague memory, I do like I agree with the kind of facial design. They look very sad and, as you say, depressed, which I thought was quite interesting. I'm not a massive fan. I remember the kind of voices. They sound too. I want to say I prefer it when the voice sounds more eerie and robotic, like the Mondasian Cybermen do, than kind of. Yeah, they sound a bit too human. The voice I prefer to be more robotic, but I prefer the design to be more human-esque, personally. So yeah.
What did you two think about this then, George and Paul? Because you know you're a couple of years older than me. A couple. So obviously you this must have been. Did you get the shock value of this like I did as a 12-year-old?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I have to say, no, I didn't.
You knew, did you?
No, I didn't know. Okay. But that year, and I'm going to say something very controversial now, Peter Davison's first year, I drifted away from Doctor Who. It just became less and less what Doctor Who should be for me. Everything that made it the best TV show ever just seemed to be draining away from it.
Right.
And
things don't change, do they?
I remember I don't know if it came before or after. I think it came after. The last Peter Davison one I watched regularly was the one with Concorde.
Time Flight.
Yeah.
Which was bloody
Lucky
awful.
you.
Anyway,
Oh.
I do remember thinking that out of that entire season, that was the one story where it kind of sparked back to life, and it had echoes of what it should be.
Now that's interesting to hear.
Yeah.
But you know, I wasn't. I certainly didn't fall off the sofa, and you know, compare that. If fast forward another, I don't know, 10, 15 years after Tomb of the Cybermen was found and got a rush release onto VHS. If you remember back in the day, BBC videos were available for 1 week as an exclusive at Woolworths stores before
That's
they
right.
went on to general release.
Yes, that's right.
And
We did do that. Yeah.
yes, and by a happy coincidence, I had a day off work the day that the Tomb of the Cybermen video came out in Woolworths.
Right.
So by 9:10, I was at my
Be
local
honest, you took a
Woolworths store.
sickie, didn't you?
Yes. I was at my local Woolworths store buying a copy of Tomb of the Cybermen, went home, spent the entire day, sat on the couch, and I can vividly remember sitting there looking at the TV screen going, I'm watching Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
I'm actually watching Tomb of the Cybermen. I own my own copy of Tomb of the Cybermen. I remember the video started with an introduction from Maurice Barry, the director.
Yes, it did, didn't
Yeah.
it? That was lovely touch. That
And-
was.
Yeah, it was, but on first watching, I was just there going, "Oh, get on with it."
I mean, look at them here. They're all sparkly and
Yes.
I mean, it's beautifully of the time, but it's still very recognizably a Cyberman. It's a nice evolving process that the Cybermen have at this point. It really is.
And that's
lovely.
a beautiful reveal when they come out the tombs. That's so well
Yes.
shot.
It's
Oh,
very,
that's
it is very, very
scary,
well done.
Yeah.
It is scary though, isn't it? You know, I mean, look at them.
Mhm.
Ugh.
But the genuine excitement I had watching Tomb of the Cybermen, which was a real thrill back then. That wasn't replicated watching the Earthshock one at all.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I mean,
I feel differently. I feel I was really into that, and I loved it. And I love 80s Cybermen. I think they're superb. They look great, particularly the Silver Nemesis variety. That chrome look looks really good. So I'm glad they kept that image because they look superb. They look really, 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 really powerful. But I liked season 19 and Davison's first season particularly. And I thought 18 and 19 were a breath of fresh air for me. But I can see what you mean, George, that it was starting to kind of go down a little bit in terms of the way it went by season 26 in terms of fan reaction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Production
I
values,
think the big thing for me is Tom Baker was irreplaceable.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah.
And for me, and I'm not having a go at him personally, and I've enjoyed his performance in lots of other stuff that he's done. Peter Davison just didn't cut it as the Doctor for me.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. I mean, we've all got bits and pieces, won't we?
Mhm.
You know, so I think that's fair enough. We've got a lot of people in the chat here. I want to say hello and welcome to Who's Views to Thor Behind. It's nice to see you. And wow, yes, Chris did. Whew. Yes, the 1980s Cybermen have this deep, exaggerated, almost forced tough guy voice, like they're trying a bit too hard to sound intimidating. I get that, actually. I do get that. But at least for me, it was different because having been introduced them to Revenge of the Cybermen at a very early age, I just sort of remembered some sort of echo. So when it was released on the VHS, you know, and I got it and I looked at it, there it still was. And I just thought, oh, it's not me being daft. It isn't.
Yeah.
It's as though the actor's talking in the helmet.
Yeah.
Mm.
The Revenge of the Cybermen voice has a bit of cross between Earthshock and a Moonbase Cyberman combined. You know, it's got a kind of combination of the two, you know what I mean?
I think Thor was getting at the point I was trying to say, basically, a lot better. That's the thing that bugged me with those Cybermen.
Was it?
Yeah. It sounds like a bouncer. They sound like bouncers, basically. A nightclub.
Oh.
You can just hear him saying no trainers, can't you? Yeah.
Are you on the list?
The Earthshock Cyberman suit was a so-called pressure suit used in the Soviet space program. Yeah, I mean, I remember. I also remember being very impressed when I read about that in Doctor Who Monthly, where they interviewed who was the designer. I can't remember. She's gone out of my head. All right, come back to me. I'm thinking, well, that's clever because those things were.
Was it Dinah Collins? Dinah Collins?
Was it Diane? It
Dinah
was,
Collins?
wasn't it?
I think so.
And
yeah.
it was all sent out to Richard's business, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Out there. But these things, as you lot all know, I mean, they stayed on for quite a while. So we started with the look of them with the glass. That was really horrific as well. That plastic bit there where you can see their chin, the silver chin. I remember just being in awe of that as a 12-year-old, just thinking, oh, there's a human in there. Ugh,
the bizarre thing about that is if you see it out of context, it looks like it's not very good. You have to understand the Cybermen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've seen people see it who are not fans thinking, well, you can see the guy's chin, that's rotten, that's rubbish, you know, but they don't get the fact it's a human part in a machine creature's body kind of thing.
I wonder if that's because we've become so used to the you know, as Kirsty and Mila were saying, that they, you know, the Cybermen today, and also the fact that they are more robotic. I mean, Amelia used the word Iron Man. That's what they have become. They have become that. Kirsty was talking about stomping, all that sort of stuff that niggled me about the new ones. I wonder if that's because people do think they are robots now, when actually they're not. Could be. I don't know.
I mean, they haven't touched much on cybernization of the Cybermen in the classic series, apart from a little bit in Tomb and a little bit in Attack of the Cybermen, which is a shame because the bits they do work really well, and a bit of Tobias Vaughan as well, I suppose. But you know, it's kind of nice when you see the workings of people being processed, which is really good. You know.
I love the fact that you mentioned Silver Nemesis there, and a couple of people are saying in the chat as well that Silver Nemesis is underrated. It's worth going back and looking at those 3 episodes as well, isn't it, for the Cybermen? I mean, it is. But I don't know if you've seen this. This is a picture because they actually sold one of the Silver Nemesis costumes over the last few years.
Oh,
wow!
So this was from one. I think it was Bonham's. So what they've obviously done is they've taken the chest unit and the helmets that would have been around for a little while. They added that little crystalline feature into the mouthpiece there, as you can all see.
Yeah,
right, just to hide that little bit again. But they've obviously just got a gold spray. But it's interesting though, isn't it? Because it worked okay in screen.
Oh yeah.
So this was them stuffing it on a dummy to sell it, and it did sell.
I'm sure.
But I love this version, Who Views, because of course this is the version we had for years. This was J&T's cyber version, so it never changed. Little bits of it changed. It didn't radically change the design during those years that John was producing the show, but they always looked fantastic in the exhibitions. I just love them. This is Blackpool 2. I took this in Blackpool 2. It could actually say, having said that, it could be Lancolin. My memory cheats, as John used to say. And then there's this one.
Lovely.
I mean, they just look fantastic when they were looked after and put. That is a Silver Nemesis one, by the way, everyone.
My favourite 80s Cybermen moment is the bit in the 5 Doctors where he walks up towards on the hill and sees the Master, the Doctor, Tegan, and Susan, and goes, and then walks away.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
Hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Love that. Yeah.
Oh, there's a bar over there. No. And also we have to remember as well that during the 80s, when the Cybermen were off screen in Doctor Who, they found it very, very difficult to find work. So they had to resort to marketing. Who got that T-shirt, everybody? Who ordered the T-shirt? Can't get into it now because I didn't think about the future, did I? It comes up to about here now. But isn't that brilliant? Look at it there. They were the big thing, kids. Oh,
you think that's bad? It doesn't fit. You know, my friend's got Tom Baker underpants. They don't fit me either.
There are those.
Yeah. Do they still fit, George?
Like a glove. Wear them with pride.
I want to go back to the 60s for a little bit. Yeah, so let's catch the bus and go back to the 60s for a little bit here as we walk down 1960s memory lane. Look, they were still, when they were out of work back in the 60s, still doing it, but not as much because they actually became the replacement for the Daleks for a little while, didn't they? The Cybermen, they became massively important in the Troughton era, massively.
That photo you had of the Cybermen at the bus queue by Ealing Common, one of those is John Levine.
Wow,
is it?
Yeah.
Yes, the one in the middle there, the 3 in the front.
I never knew that. That's brilliant.
Yes, he was a Cyberman in the Moonbase.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew he was in the Moonbase. I didn't realize he was actually in this picture as well. Oh, how fabulous! Let's continue that theme then, because I was going to point out John Levine is one of them. Can you spot him?
Yeah, the one at the front, the one at the back you can't quite see. That's him, isn't it? Yeah.
I think one of the really good things about Moonbase is the fact that there's more than 3 Cybermen. I think they went to, it was like 12 or 13 costumes.
Yes, great.
You know, you actually see a lot of them for once.
You do.
The march across the moon is fantastic, isn't
Yeah.
it? For the cliffhanger, that's superb, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It really, really is good. It's a shame it's not completed, really, isn't it? But you know,
the animation for that was not too bad as well, I have to say. Quite a
well, the
mistake.
animation's good. I can watch the animation for Moonbase. That and Invasion, I can watch quite happily. Anything else that comes after it, you know, which is why one of the other reasons we're going to be doing Invasion in a couple of weeks' time, because it's just brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant story.
Someone was talking about the Cybermen in Moonbase earlier in the chat, and I agree with the fact that they're in the shadows a lot. It's a great bit in one of the missing episodes where there's a guy in the storeroom and you see a shadow of a Cyberman behind him, and he knocks him out with a electronic bolt. You know, it's superb. Yes. And the fact they've burrowed their way into the base as well, superb. And they've got all the sugar up against the doorway they come in. That's superb. Really well done. You know?
I remember the Target book had a terrific illustration on one of the pages of that where you see the Cyberman as a silhouette with the guy in the storeroom, you know, the Cyberman's in a really dramatic pose like that or something, and he's
it's full of atmosphere, isn't it? That's really good, yeah.
Though it has to be said, the Moonbase is basically a remake of the 10th Planet.
Oh, of course it is. Okay, but it's forgivable. I mean, it must have been great. Again, I always say about the kids at the time, it must have been great for them to see the Cybermen back, and it must have been a bit of a shock, you know, because they've moved on. They're different. They look different, but you know, it must have been lovely being there at the time. Davison was okay, George, says Domgo. It was with Colin and Sylvester I felt the series lost its way. Yeah, well, fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, and horses for Corsi, that's fine.
Yeah, well, Paul Stenford is saying the Silver Nemesis Cybermen were great, even with their oversized baseball gloves. They were cricket gloves, weren't they?
Yeah.
How's
that? That's it.
Our problem being is saying here, I still suffer PTRD myself, George, post-Tom regeneration distress.
Never goes away.
Mike Disney is agreeing with you as well, George, on that one. Digby, Earthshock actually was where Peter clicked as the Doctor for me. I thought he was great in that one as well, Digby.
He was very good,
Wow. Yeah. And Adrian is saying Davison became my Doctor in the end. He was for me for a good long while, actually.
I liked him. I think the trouble is following Tom was a massive ask, wasn't it? To be honest, that's the thing. You know.
I think when I say, I mean, Tom's always going to be my Doctor, and I'm always going to have Pertwee better. But Davison, for me, well, no disrespect to Colin or Sylvester, but he was more the Doctor for me. I think it's because Colin's run didn't get put on, because I saw aspects. Especially in Attack of the Cybermen, I really like Colin in that one. I think he's really like standing firm with the Cybermen.
I think what Davison showed quite well was that you can have a younger actor play a 100-year-old Time Lord. He almost kind of paved the way for them. Matt Smith, who came in even younger than him at 26, but it showed that it's possible. But as you say, it was a hard act to follow. But he definitely added something. You know, it showed something different, a different kind of side of the Doctor as well. He's a little bit more kind of human in a sense, rather than he's not as alien and eccentric as Tom Doctor is. So they contrast quite well, and sometimes you need that. Even if no one was ever going to outplay Tom, were they? Really, let's be honest. You could get any actor. It could be Charles Dance. It could be, I don't know, Christopher Lee. He probably would have done a great job, but you wouldn't going to beat Tom Baker.
No,
going to play that part.
Yeah, and that was very much. I mean, Davison was very 80s, because his series fits in with the stuff that was on the telly at the time. Brideshead Revisited, all that sort of stuff. Even the comedies at the time, most of which Davison was in. But it was that sort of stuff. It was that there was this sort of, I don't know what to call it, but all this sort of floppy blondness going around in the 80s, including myself, believe it or not. Happy Man 050, I enjoyed the clips of the first, the second, and the fourth Doctors in Earthshock the most. That was a wee treat. It got a bit tiring, though, didn't it? Because John kept doing it. So it got a bit tight. I mean, but because we got it in Mordred Undead the following year, etc., etc. But it was nice. It was lovely. And the music from Tomb of the Cybermen is the best, says Julie, but isn't it just?
I like the fact that Yeti have a similar theme. They've got the same record.
It's stock music. There was a CD released,
Yes,
which is music from the 10th Planet, which was reused in Moonbase, Tomb. It wasn't in Invasion. I don't think it was in Wheel in Space, but those three stories use the same music cues.
I like that because there they are in the 60s with a theme for the Cybermen, which has now been discovered through people watching Tomb of the Cyber, and it's just, I mean, it's just glorious. You can still get it if you look for it on vinyl, by the way, the score of the Tomb of the Cybermen, and it's just lovely. If you can find it, get it, I would say, because it's a great addition to any collection. Really is.
A tiny bit of really anorak fully zipped up fanboy information on the original broadcast of which episode was it? Was it episode 2 of the Armageddon Factor? There was a transmission breakdown with a temporary fault.
Yes, the temporary fault screen.
Yes. And the music that the BBC played over it till they got the tape up and running again was the Cyberman march used in those.
You've got a fabulous memory. I don't remember that. I just remember when those things happening, screaming, what's going on? Don't get me started on K9 and Company, but yeah, screaming that was happening. And then it came back, and I'm sure it had missed part of the episode.
That's what I thought as well. I was going to say that. Yeah, they jumped a bit. Yeah.
My memory is actually they rewound the tape and you got like 30 seconds rerun.
I just remember being because that used to happen in the old days, guys. Yeah, I used to get this thing on that
and power cuts and things like that. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, they're all coming back.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome.
Demand. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to SM. It's nice to see you. Tom Baker is my favourite Doctor. What did you think then, SM, about Tom's one and only cyber adventure in Revenge of the Cybermen? Let us know. Pop it in the chat. I'll see if I can find you.
Actually, I think an interesting point is even though they hadn't been on TV for would have been 6, maybe 7 years, you know, when Tom Baker was announced to the public and he did his first photo call, it was with a Cyberman.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, probably because it was the suit.
First costume. Yes. It's like, we can't get a Dalek into the BBC bar, so we need somebody.
And there's some stairs.
Great way to say. It was also a great way of a hint they're coming back, isn't it? Really, yeah. It brought them back into because those papers were read by millions of people, so it brought them back into the psyche.
Yes. But you know, John Pertwee's first photo call was with a Yeti, which was which was very recently used in the TV program. But a Cyberman hadn't been seen properly for a good 6 or 7 years at that point.
Yeah. I thought the Cybermen got better as they went on until the village people Cybermen arrived with the says Forbidden Man in Revenge of the Cybermen. Oh, they get, just because they've got flares. I mean, come on, they get hard. I still think from the chest up, I think they look brilliant. And I will always remember them. George has sent me a picture, by the way, everybody, of the Cybermen in the Blackpool exhibition, which I can't show you because I haven't got the graphics, but we will use it at some point. I just remember being in awe of those Cybermen in Blackpool and the way they were lit. Yeah. And it was just, and the cyber leader, which you could tell it was the cyber leader because he had the black helmet on.
Yeah.
Oh, I just remember thinking, this is good. Oh, brilliant. It's a shame Kirsty and Amelia never got to see the bloody Blackpool exhibition, isn't it?
Back in the 1970s, nobody could put the costumes together properly. They used bits from various versions of them and came up with like these weird hybrids that appeared in the Blackpool exhibition time after time.
Yeah,
you know, you'd have a Moonbase chest unit on a Revenge Cyberman or something like that.
Yeah.
My favourite hybrid is the one on the Radio Time special, the one that's the Invasion helmet with the two chest units, and it looks great.
Yes.
It really does.
Paul Stentiford's in the chat with us, and he says the cyber leader in Tomb of the Cybermen with the visible brain is quite effective, in my opinion. Again, that must have been a bloody great shot for the kids watching. I mean, look at that. That's some hat, love.
So it does look like he's very quickly eaten a vanilla slice there.
And being got shot. Yeah.
I mean, there's a big know that one, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though. I mean, it was so iconic, that particular sound that they tried it again in the 80s.
Not so good.
With the same actor, bizarrely, So
as we knew,
who had been eating lots of cakes, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. Apparently, they had on this. They did continue so I'm led to believe they continued the sort of veins on the compass brain size thing, but you can't really tell, can you?
No.
No, not really.
No, I do think the one thing that the team with the Cyberman Cyber Leader is missing is a chess unit.
Yeah.
It should have a chess unit.
Yeah, because he didn't have one, did he?
Yeah.
No, I'd agree with that. And of course, they continued that, guys, into Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel as well, didn't they? So you guys got to see our version of the Cyber Controller as well. So he was quite good, I thought, as well. He looked quite good when you met him in the. As long as the lighting was right, if you saw him in an exhibition, he looked quite good. If the lighting was wrong, it was awful. It was a terrible costume. Honestly.
I really liked the cyber throne that you had. That was superb. That was chair you had was great. Yeah.
I thought that was getting a little bit jokey at that point. The cyber throne.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose
I don't know if it's referred to that. Something is on the toilet. I know, but
yeah.
I suppose that's because the character as well. Lumic was sort of, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me, and he was playing a bit of God, wasn't he? Really, in that parallel.
Yeah. I have to say, I love Roger Lloyd Pack, but he's doing a Richard Briers in this one. He really is. He's just hamming up no end. It's horrible. Yeah.
I would have just preferred he played Trigger, and it would have been quite funny.
It would have been funny, yeah. When he was cybernized, how could you tell the difference between him and Trigger? I'm not quite sure. But,
Adrian is telling us that Richard Gregory, Richard Gregory did a great job of the 80s Cybermen. Yes, and as I say, it was a great job, but it looked fantastic also when you saw them, as you can see from my photographs there, up until the modern day when you see those, versions today. 60 Cybermen are the best, says Heretic OSJC. Farsight said Silver Nemesis had good points and bad points. The suits almost looked like the skin. Yeah, fair enough. Sean Cryer, the use of gold was questionable in Silver Nemesis. Oh, I remember the fuss. Oh, I remember the fuss. Oh, gosh. But then they came back very quickly, didn't they, in the monthly and in interviews and say, no, it's not supposed, you can't see the gold on screen. So it's not gold on the Cybermen. It's because the sun was making it look like chrome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember that. Farsight saying, I remember that Peter Davison t-shirt. It took ages to come through. I was so, where is it? But it took ages. And Craig Dunlop, hiya. Paul mentioned the Tobias Vaughan character from Invasion. I thought Kevin Stoney's performance as Vaughan was one of the very best villains ever on TV and not just Doctor Who. Well, you're going to love our Invasion review then, because I'm sure we've all got a lot to say about Mr. Stoney.
That was worth the Cyberman playing second fiddle to Kevin Stoney, because that's superb. He's superb in that story. It really is. Great foil for Troughton.
Yeah, absolutely. And also because it must have been a shock because it's not called Invasion of the Cybermen, it's just called The Invasion.
Yeah.
So there's a great reveal there, but more of that coming when we get to it, of course. Lots of you in the chat. Thank you for joining us this evening for us, our cyber chat. Ark in Space is saying, I went to the reopening of the Blackpool exhibition in 2004. It was great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was fun. Merry old soul Gigglesmith. Hello. BBC New Jane Austen show has a black doctor in it. Problem is, he was a real person and wasn't black. The BBC have an obsession with replacing white people with black, open racism by the BBC. Well, they could cybernize them. But it's good to see you, Merry Old Soul Gigglesmith. You're like our show on Sunday nights, which is called Headlines. Come and join us for that one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. That's one thing about the Cybermen, though, is that they don't give a toss about all that nonsense, do they? They're just going to turn you into a Cyberman.
It wouldn't surprise me in this new version that they would remove the fact that the cyber controller or cyber leader has a kind of black helmet, because they'll find a reason. They'll find a woke reason for it, I'm sure.
They would hate the attack of the Cybermen, Emilio, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah.
With the cyber scout in the sewers.
Yeah. I mean, we've had this discussion about the Daleks before because they're problematic, but so are the Cybermen. So, Emilio, do you actually think that this new version of Doctor Who is going to try and bring the Cybermen back?
I think, like with the Daleks, I think RTD does have a finger on the pulse that the Cybermen and the Daleks have been overdone and they need a break. Now, you don't want them to come back anyway in this iteration anyway, but I do think they definitely need a break. They need a good stint away from, they've just been used way too much. But you never know. They might have they might want to get their message out there, and it might be the best way to do it.
I can't see Ncuti Gatwa opposite Cybermen or Daleks, to be quite honest, without crying. Atom, Good to see you. I honestly, I can't see. I don't think he's strong enough for those characters. I really, because the Cybermen and the Daleks are both strong, and I don't think Gatwa is.
He just burst into tears again, surely. But
we can give him the pating. He can probably handle the pating quite well. Yeah.
The what?
No, not agreeing there, Paul.
No, the pating's too hard for him, I have to say. Too tough.
George and I are now complete. I take it that's something from Chibnall's era. Because
I'm so sorry. I don't speak the language.
Listen, Atom's with us. Hello, Atom, mate. Hope you are well. My favourite Cyberman stories were from the 80s with Davison and Colin Baker, particularly the Colin Baker Cybers. They were most evil, good stories too. Attack of the Cybermen, of course, is a good a good romp, to use John's word. You know, a really good word. But I wouldn't put it as one of my favourite Cybermen stories, to be honest. But I do enjoy it. I really do.
It's one of my favourite Colin Baker stories. I mean, some great moments in it. The first part's like Minder, which is great. And then you've got all these lovely bits on Telos where Cybermen get their heads knocked off. It's superb. Lots of good action.
Lots of people in the chat appreciating how good the music was in Tomb of the Cybermen and what have you. But of course, for myself, again, being an 80s boy, it's always going to be the March of the Cybermen for me. That's what I hear when I'm mincing around with my trolley in Tesco.
It's like it's having the album Doctor and the music that did that for me as well. Yeah.
That's why it's ingrained on a lot of our head. Because 83, that big year, and there's that March of the Cybermen suite. And that would go down well in the Albert Hall. I swear to you. Never mind all this Murray Gold nonsense now. With all these cyber suites we've had before, including the March of the Cybermen and the Tomb of the Cybermen, Emilio, were great.
The 50th anniversary prom at the Albert Hall, they did that cyber music suite from the 1960s.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I watched it.
I will confess, I do like the Cybermen theme in New Who, the original one. I actually think it try to go down a little bit kind of the creepy kind of slightly eerie kind of vibe. So I actually quite like it. It's been obviously overdone as everything, but I think it's actually quite a good theme for the Cybermen.
What, the Murray Gold one? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and listen to it because, again, Emilio, I've dismissed it from my head because all I can hear is the March of the Cybermen from the 80s. That's all I hear. But I mean, I'm that age. You're that age.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the same thing we're doing here with just our different shows.
I think we just kind of like that kind of nostalgia element that we kind of associate with whatever you were growing up with. Exactly. Yeah.
Carvin's got a question. Carvin's got a question for you all, everyone. Isn't Moonbase the one with the really creepy part where they realise there's too many bodies in the medical bay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
Spoilers coming up. One gets off the table. Super.
Yes.
I love that part of it because it's just so lovely played. It's well written. It's nicely set up, and you just all go.
Yes.
Well, during that speech about evil was absolutely superb, but then we get that. That's nice.
Oh, yes.
So that cliffhanger where the Cyberman reveals itself and comes off the medical bed. Out of camera shot, part of its costume falls out. You can hear it falls off, and you can hear it clatter to the floor.
Oh, really?
I need to rewatch that again.
Close up.
Excellent. I love when that happens. Really.
There's an interesting one here from John that's saying, shame Tom only did one story with the Cybermen. Now, when you look at, in my opinion, respectfully, John, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm glad he only did the one because when you look at how the stories evolved in Tom's era of Doctor Who, and it became very reliant on nothing except itself. I mean, he only did 2 Dalek stories, for example.
Yeah.
And Tom became more and more powerful. Could you? It would have had to have been an incredible story with the Cybermen for Tom not to really take them seriously. It would have had to be a real thriller or a horror. And I know he flirted with them for a movie, didn't he?
I was going to say there was a very near miss because his and Ian Martyr's script for the Scratchman had the Cybermen in it, and had that have happened, which it very, very nearly did, that would have been another Cyberman story for him.
But it would, I think I'm going to stick to my guns though. I think it would have had to be the Cybermen at their most horrific and serious for Tom to play with that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, in the script of the Scratchman, they were introduced because they were disguised as scarecrows.
That's right.
And everybody thought the scarecrows were coming along, but the Doctor reveals they're actually Cybermen trying to invade the planet,
which is fantastic.
Isn't that a TV comic strip?
Who were actually working at the behest of the Scratchman.
Yeah.
Which was the devil. wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
had it have gone ahead, in all likelihood, would have been played by Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tom knew Vincent as well, didn't
Yeah.
you? Yeah. I bet you can just imagine them all in blooming Soho, can't you? The Revenge Cybermen are the most sought after action figures, says PB. Oh, really? Well,
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Yeah.
Yes.
Bet yours doesn't do this though. I want to show fans, there'll be fans screaming their heads off that their heads come off, but there you go.
No. Well, see, with mine, it hasn't. There it is there. The
Yeah.
Revenge of the Cybermen in that pack there.
Oh,
3,000. There you go. We'll start the bidding now. 3,000, everybody. Get it in. Here we are.
I've just noticed complete with Cybermat as well.
Oh, yeah, you get a gorgeous Cyberman in it. I'll just show that there. Can you see that? There it is
That's I'm sure that's definitely one set that Character Options could do a straight reissue of for B&M to sell. I'm sure that would be a big seller.
I'm sure. Fingers crossed, everybody, that when they realise that they're fed up with the Daleks, they can reissue all those beautiful Cybermen. They did that Age of Steel thing. You could get them in an Age of Steel box set as well with 3 of them in. But I reckon that everybody would go back and buy these Cybermen because they're absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? So with those of us that buy the action figures, I'd buy them all again in nice sets like the Dalek ones. I really would. Hello to Paleo. Paleo Clive 1684. Sorry, I never found the cyber persons scary. Cyber persons, the Cybermen scary. The Sea Devils made me wet myself with fear when I was around 5, I'm told. Oh, bless, that's a nice story. We've still got the Sea Devils to review later this year, everybody. Stay tuned. And Paleo, lovely to see you. Come and join us for that and remind us of that. We've got Mudcrab saying Cyber Controller with Cyber the Tank Engine. And Stuart B 1970. Oh, well, B, yeah, Stuart B 1970. Nice to see you. I love the 80s Cybermen design. Excellent. I've been doing that all these years, kids. I was so excited when they appeared in the cliffhanger to part 1 of Earthshock. You and me both, Stuart. Did you fall off the sofa as well? Did you hit your bum? Because I certainly did. And poor Richard is saying, I hated the RTD Cybermen. I preferred the Mondasian ones or the 80s ones.
Yeah,
I love the Cybermats in the new edition of Silver Nemesis, says Stephen.
yes,
they put that back in the box set, Paul. Is that right?
Yeah, there's 4 versions of Silver Nemesis which I've watched, and sorry about that. And they have a sequence in part 1 with Cybermat, so look out for that if you've not got season 25 yet, or in 2028, JT, when you get yours. Okay.
Yeah, listen, I've only just got Series 9 on the Blu-ray standard. I'm working my way. I watched Day of the Daleks today. I'm working my way through it. So leave me alone. And what's this from Atom? Who was the Cyberman guru back in the 80s? What was his name? It was JNT. No, I'm kidding. Bless him. I love him. Terry something. He wore their outfits and was all over Doctor Who magazine. Terry? No. Do you mean David Banks as the chief?
Was that Teloth Terry?
I don't know, Atom. I don't know. I can't remember a Terry.
No.
Do you too?
No idea.
More into I think of Terry Nation. They had nothing to do with the Cybermen, but
yeah. Lots of you in the chat. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you. But John is saying the Cybermen will not come back unless they're non-binary. You see?
Yeah.
I think we've actually, you'll know my views, everybody. I think we've seen them for the last time on television now, and that takes me to the bit I've been trying to put off for as much as possible. We're going to talk about them right now because, yeah, the new series continued to churn them out. I think it felt like every year. I mean, it wasn't the only thing that did it as well because this turned up.
What?
Yes, Cyberwoman. That's Torchwood.
George?
Don't panic, it's Torchwood. It's Doctor Who.
I'm sorry, is that some sort of fetish party thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So this is one of the
Cyberman
things...
written by Chris Chibnall. Surprise. Yeah.
This was Torchwood, as you know, if you were there and you've seen it, you've caught up with it. This was with a bit in Torchwood where I just really knew it wasn't for me. I just thought, how ridiculous. The episode was called, George, Cyberwoman. So that sort of gave us a clue. And yet I went into this thinking something completely different.
Excuse me, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to stab myself with a fork.
I was just going to say, I'm very glad now that actually when Torchwood first came out, I had to ask permission to stay up late. So I'm glad I never saw that.
What time was it on, Kirst? I don't remember.
It used to be like 10.
10
Was
o'clock,
it?
wasn't it?
10 or
On
11
BBC
sometimes,
was it
yeah.
10 o'clock on BBC Three, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be for an adult audience, and
Yeah,
yet
it
the
was all about
script-
aliens and shagging, that was it.
and that's
Yeah.
what it was, just like a new adventures novel. It was so ridiculously done, and the whole thing about it, you know, and we may start reviewing them at some point, Who Views, if you want us to. If you want us to go through the torture of watching it again and you are getting off on that, then let us know. whosviews1@gmail.com, and we'll think about it. But George,
We'll be
honestly,
happy for views, yeah.
I missed
I do
nothing,
remember-
George, in this. This was a sequel, if you like, to what had happened at the end of series 2, where the Daleks and the Cybermen finally came together and were fighting each other. The Daleks were winning the battle with the Cybermen, and it was the Battle of Canary Wharf. And this young lady was working in Canary Wharf. She was then going out with Ianto, if I remember correctly, and he saved her from Canary Wharf looking like that. Would you have bothered everybody? I don't know. Would you go?
Didn't she fight with a pterodactyl at one point that episode as well?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
So did she often wear that for the office then?
Every chance you got, George. Yeah.
I think that episode was just very much, you could just tell that Torchwood. It took a while for it to find its footing. It took. To be honest, it really took until Children of Earth for it to be more
to be any
serious drama. Exactly. Yeah. That was just it's not a great episode at all. I do like the fact that they tried to show the impact of what happened after series 2 and bringing
a nice concept.
Yeah, exactly. The concept is good. The execution is terrible.
I only ever saw a couple of Torchwood episodes, and that certainly wasn't one of them. But the one thing I do remember was I remember reading a newspaper review of Torchwood, which described it as Doctor Who with Tourette's.
Oh, really?
That's about
Really?
right. Yeah.
I just didn't take to it at all. We have got a lot of people in the chat or reacting to that photograph, including Graham. My, is that for real? Richard Brooks is going Cyberwoman. Yeah, okay. Atom is saying, actually, back to that point, that maybe it was David Banks. I'm not sure. It was the late 80s, 90s. Doctor Who magazine. He was featured back in the Cybermen outfit. Okay. I think it might have been David. I don't know. We'll have to go and look into it.
Was he promoting his book, I wonder?
It might have been the Cyberman book. Yeah. Legion of James, the Cyberwoman episode was the point I tapped out of Torchwood. Paul Roughton is saying to us, Cyberwoman was such a missed opportunity. Yep. Paul Stenterford, you wouldn't be allowed to call them Cybermen these days, more like cyber non-binary people. Yeah, that ties in with the point from before. Sean Cryer, the Cyberwoman was ridiculous. All genitalia would be removed. That's too near the knuckle of what's happening today. Graham is saying, I didn't watch Torchwood, and seeing the image hasn't encouraged me to indulge. I just remember being absolutely horrified by how bad the thing was. And it was written, as Paul said, by Chibnall.
Yeah.
And a few years later, they give him the bloody job of running the show. More on his era coming up in just a few seconds, everybody. Michael says it for all of us.
Yeah.
And Craig Dunlop is saying here, if the picture went down far enough, you'd see Cyberwoman has high heels. Really?
She does, yeah. Well, high platform
that.
Shoes, really, effectively. Yeah.
Well, how bloody sexist is that? SG is saying, yes, it was on at 10 p.m. on BBC 3. Bill Lowry, Torchwood, adult sci-fi stories. Sarah Jane Adventures have more generally adult stories. Yeah. And it says all that Sarah Jane Adventures was more popular than Torchwood. Although I believe in Torchwood, Torchwood was going down quite well in America, I believe. Says it all. Just kidding. I love you.
There are some good episodes of Torchwood to watch. Everyone should watch.
Yeah, Children of Earth. Saying that. Look.
Right. Yeah, it has some good episodes. There's some good. The characters are good. There's something there. They just had the tendency, like with Cyberwoman, to just just make it overly sexualized, just crass and just not very good. But there are, honestly, if you find the right episode, they're definitely worth watching.
It was like it was written by Beavis and Butthead, I think, a little bit. You know what I mean?
It probably was. Yeah. I like Torchwood, but that episode was not good, said John. Farsight, that Cyberwoman is awful. Cybermen have all redundant parts removed, and that would include the skin. Ugh, it's vile thinking about it now, wasn't it? PTA, Paul Thomas Ashworth, is saying to us, Torchwood was hit and miss. It was mostly miss. Badger 70 saying to us, sort of defeats the idea of the body horror. If all the Cybermen turned out like that, who would complain? I thought the whole thing about it as well was a bit weird, considering that Ianto was trying to preserve her or something, if I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
correctly. He was trying to
I think
save
he
her.
was not trying to reconvert her back to being human to reverse
Yeah.
the
But
transition.
that reminds me
Yeah.
again, as Kirsty was saying before, of the 7 of 9 process in Voyager,
Yeah,
where they took her back from being a Borg
yeah.
to being a human, almost complete human. And I don't think that can happen with a Cyberman. Once
Yeah.
you're a Cyberman, and you're gone, you're dead, you're buried, you're one of them. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's the scary thing about the Cybermen.
I think
There's one thing that got me about Cybermen, like in Revenge of the Cybermen, they use the transmat, but they don't get pulled apart. That's interesting, don't you think?
the body, the focus of, unfortunately, with that episode was it was more around Yanto keeping the secret that he was doing this behind, in Torchwood, behind Jack's back. So that was really kind of what the drama was kind of all about, where they didn't focus on the body horror, and they could have really gone and made it quite dark if they wanted to. Instead, they decided to make the cyberwoman look like that, basically.
I just thought it was awful, and I thought it was a terrible way to represent the Cybermen. Really,
Yeah.
Legion of James is saying to us would much rather the Sarah Jane Adventure reviews. Stay tuned to us. Make sure you subscribed.
Yeah,
they are finally on the way. I've cleared it with the guys. We're going to be doing the Sarah Jane Adventures, so stay with us on the channel. We've been trying to do it for 2 years. Honestly, we're going to get around to it now. Lots of you saying all sorts of things about this Cyberwoman thing. It does tend to be forgotten now, doesn't it? Really, thankfully.
I think
blotted out, I think, is the best expression to use. I think,
yeah.
Everyone decided to delete it from their memory, basically.
See what
he did there. He's clever, isn't he, everyone? Yokai63 saying the Cyberwoman was originally called The Trouble with Lisa. Was this derived from John Wyndham's book, The Trouble with Lyshan? I have no idea. I don't think so. I don't know. William Morlock, 86. Chibs' Cyberwoman in heels isn't as sexist as Moffat's flowery TARDIS. What's that mean?
Are they talking about when the TARDIS was painted with flowers in? Is it the end of series 9, right, or something around that? Anyway, yeah.
Oh,
I forgot the character's name who paint the artist who painted it.
Riggs,
that's it. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Riggs,
See, I forgot that as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Terrible. Thor behind. Early Cybermen had a primitive, almost makeshift look, which contributed to their unsettling and more effective presence. Absolutely. Which leads me on to the next part of something I didn't really want to talk to, but we're going to have to, really, because this is Cyberchat, and it's this stuff. Now, this looks to me, everybody, a little bit cheap, because that is the Matt Smith Cybermen bodies with a new helmet. And I have to say, the helmet doesn't, for me, it doesn't work. And what the hell are those spikes? We mentioned them earlier.
But
the helmet, it looks a bit weird.
The helmet isn't too bad, except he's got sideboards. He looks like Mungo Jerry. You know what I mean?
Is that what that is?
I think so. Yeah.
That to me looks like a Dungeons and Dragons Cyberman.
Well, have a look at this one, George.
If Starlight Express and Iron Man had babies,
the Cyberman's got roller skates on, definitely. Yeah.
That's a really good way of describing these things. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't get it. What are the spikes on his blooming shoulders and stuff as well? What is this about?
It's just like medieval armor, which is a bit naff, to be honest. But
or just do they think it makes it look cool? But I think what they've done it. They just tried to kind of mix and match of different sites, especially in the modern version, and rather than create a new design that is based on the kind of what the story and the theme that you're trying to go down, right? If you want to focus on body horror, then design a new version of the Cybermen that is really going to visualize that for an audience. But there's none of that thinking. It's just I think it's just laziness, really.
Go
on, Joe. Sorry.
I did think on that last photo, the head sort of had echoes of a Revenge Cyberman.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. Thanks for keep your chats coming, everybody. I'll get back to you now. But if you look at that, I think I can see Invasion and Revenge of the Cybermen in there. I just don't like the way the face is being framed in that sort of bit. It brings it in too much.
Yeah.
Is he recreating John Pertwee's famous season 7 publicity photos there?
He might well be, mightn't he? Yeah. Got lots of chat. Lots of you in this one. Lex is saying to us, fantastic opening scary scene to the first Cyberman in 10th Planet. Earthshock was very okay story. I only think I like Peter Capaldi era when the Doctor asked where Bill is. Cyberman Bill, yeah. The spikes, says Garbage, remind me of steampunk. What are they for? Please tell me what are they for.
It's just like armor to protect themselves, really. But
it's a Cyberman.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do steampunk, steampunk's cool. Do something brand new and design something brand new with steampunk. Leave it alone from the Cybermen. That should be clean metallic or Mondasian style. Like, make your own cyberpunk thing. Leave it alone.
Steve Hindley is saying to us here, justice for Junkyard Demon. I love Junkyard Demon.
Or Croton the Cyberman. Give him
Croton, who joined my Dennis Fisher, Tom Baker, for years as his companion. These are all, if you haven't discovered these are all characters from the now legendary Doctor Who monthly comic strips. And they are gorgeous. And at some point we may have to look at those. We've done Star Beasts already a couple of years ago as the comic strip, but they are classic and they are brilliant Doctor Who stories. So at some point I think we'll have to get together and look at those. But Junkyard Demon was one of my favorites, where Tom's Doctor actually gets to meet a 10th Planet Cyberman. It's just a brilliant story. Richard Brooks is saying that the new ones look like Noddy Holder. I see what you're saying there. I do. I get it. Tying in with what Paul was saying about the sideburns. And Graham is saying
Mungo Jerry, definitely. Look up Mungo Jerry, you know what I mean?
Graham is saying these new series Cybermen don't work for me one little bit. And Farsight, it's a mishmash of various designs.
It's Iron. It's too Iron Man-y.
It's the eye, the light in the chest, isn't it?
It's just
the Iron Heart kind of it.
It does. You don't really get a sense of there's a human being inside that. It just doesn't look like that could be a possibility. It just looked like a generic cyborg, basically. Cyborg Iron Man, basically. Yeah.
Well, Atom will agree with you. There's nothing body horror or organic in these new Cybermen. Maybe the spikes are for energy collection or power sync. I just think there was
that's giving them too much imagination, I think, on that.
It is, yeah.
Wi-Fi booster.
Wi-Fi booster, yeah. Now, of course, George and I won't know anything about this era of Doctor Who because we didn't watch it at all. But it's interesting to see how the Cybermen evolved here. I don't like what I'm seeing. I am actually very confused about the next part of this part of the Cybermen story we're going into, and I'm relying on our three panelists here, the lovely Kirsty and Paul and Emilio, to tell George and me all about this because you have already got to it in the chat. So let's have a look at this bit where Bill Lowry says, JT, you missed the haunting of Villa Diodati.
Diodati, yes.
Right, with
that's
Ashad.
That's where Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein.
Mary Shelley's in this episode.
Sorry,
right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's a planet. Right, okay.
And you'll see the connection when you put up the next picture, why this Cyberman connects to the...
let's go through this because we'll get there. With Ashad, the part-converted Psycho Cyberman. It's the first genuine Doctor Who story with Jodie Whittaker in it, which is very interesting to hear about. Thank you. Stephen Braddock then goes on to say, the Cyberlords were the worst design decision ever. We've got John Roberts saying to us, the lone Cyberman in the Jodie story with Mary Shelley was quite interesting. Thank you for that one, mate. There's a lot of you talking about this particular one. The helmets of the Chibnall Cybermen is the only thing I like about it, but even that sits strangely on that body. As for the Cyberlords, good grief, says PV, probably being. I have a lot of questions about these things as well, by the way, everybody, because let's get into it. Paul Roughton saying another crap missed opportunity, that half Cyberman in New Who. It's just a man in a bloody mask. It could have been so horrific, but again, it's lazy. Oh, goodness me. A lot of you in with this one. Thank you so much. But I've got questions because this, to me, reminds me of the Borg. Now, bearing in mind that the Borg were born of the Cybermen. And I remember seeing something years ago where Rick Berman, that was his name, wasn't it? It was Rick Berman, who was the sort of showrunner for Star Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, wasn't he? He actually, at a convention once, I seem to recall, was asked by a fan something along the lines of the Borg and the Cybermen are very similar. Is that where you got the idea? And he basically came back and said, absolutely, of course it was. So that's where it went through. So this does remind me of the Borg.
And this, I have to say, this is
horrific,
Ashad.
by the way.
the lone Cyberman is Shad, and the actor who played this is superb. He's psychotic. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
And this
the actor?
actually is the actor. Yeah, well, playing the character is psychotic, but
Right.
he is really well played. A strong performance, and he does it really well. And it's probably the best thing about the Jodie era, which is not saying much, but he's really good in it, and he's completely wasted opportunity of a character. Really is.
This has come before as well, by the way. The Star Wars Obi-Wan series, in which Vader, spoilers alert, Vader's mask is destroyed by Obi-Wan in their lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
And again, when I was doing the research for the show, Emilio, you know what I'm talking about. That reminded me of that moment where Anakin threw the mask.
It literally, you could just it looks just spitting in it, doesn't it, of Darth Vader and the helmet.
And there's Hayden in the mask playing Vader. But this looks rather scary to me. This is really spooky. And yet you guys are telling me that this wasn't played on properly? I mean, look at that in there. It's bloody horrible. It
promised at the beginning, and they never delivered. And then obviously, isn't it the master basically shrinks him into...
the master shrinks him but brings him back later on.
It's
just... he's meant to be the main villain in the, I think, Ascension of the Cybermen, right? He is made to be the main threat, basically.
Yeah.
And a typical New Who fashion. In the second part, he just is no longer the main threat. And let's not go into the Timeless Child. That's the
episode. The picture we saw is where the Timeless Child starts. So it's like, oh no,
Hang on a minute. The Cybermen are involved with the rewriting of the Doctor.
Well, it's in the same episode. Yeah. Well, the Dalek Time Lord. The Cybermen Cyber Time Lords are in that story.
Right, let's get to this now, because this is where I'm getting really confused. We've got Julianne. Hiya, Julianne. I like the Chibnall helmet. Don't get the spikes. Quite enjoyed Ashad.
Ashad, yeah.
In The Haunting of Villa de Odota. God only knows what Chibnall was thinking about the Cyberlords. Now, again, got to reiterate, George and I haven't a bloody clue what we're all talking about here. This is really George, if you've not seen these, I found this purely through the research doing the show and grabbing the photograph, and I thought, what the hell is this?
This is awful. Okay.
So what is this?
Well, let me explain.
Have Time Lords been converted into Cybermen?
Yes. What the Master's done is had Time Lords converted, and the Cybermen can't die; they regenerate instead of dying.
So, what? They're in a bloody metal frame. How could they possibly regenerate?
Well, the body regenerates, and they're still in the suit, which is crap. I know. But there we are.
I see that they've now got buccaneer trousers and cod pieces.
Yeah. And lots of writing on them.
Lots of Rassilon style logos and stuff on them. Yeah.
But surely, if even actually, part of me thinks that it's interesting concept of cybernizing a Time Lord. But the Cybermen would remove all emotion and all regenerative process in that, because it wouldn't be necessary to them. They wouldn't want that unless they've gone completely power mad in that awful version.
Yeah.
But why come back with, oh, look, I was once a Time Lord and now I'm a Cyber Time Lord and I'm going to have the same outfit? Where did they get them from? Did they pop into Top Man or something? What went on there? I mean, look at that. They've got capes and everything.
There's a blacksmith on Gallifrey who makes those bits of headgear. You know?
I mean, but do they fly like Moffat did? Because one of the stupid things Moffat did was have the heads detached and they're flying around all over the place. What was that about? Do this lot do the same thing?
There are cyber drones which are flying heads as well, which are really naff.
That to me looks like you know the sort of thing that's somebody at Big Finish would go, "Hey, I've got this really great idea."
But the thing is, it's not even a great idea to kind of do a hybrid of the Dalek, Cybermen and Time Lord, because we've seen it with the hybrid of the Dalek, Dalek and the Doctor and Evolution of the Dalek. You've got like there's already been done. And the hybrid in Series 9. So it's not even a new idea. It's just terrible. It doesn't work.
You can go all the way back to 1967 and Evil of the Daleks for that.
Yeah. So let's answer. You guys answer Commodos while we're talking about this. I've not seen the Lone Cyberman in Jodie's era. Is it any good?
I would say it is, but for a very short time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's a shame then that that's a character that they've
wasted it. Yeah,
because as I said, let me put that up again. That is scary.
Yeah.
And I've got a question for you guys as well. Does he become a cyber leader?
He kind of is a cyber leader, really. Yeah.
Because
I think what makes him interesting is that he's obviously he's not been fully converted, and he's an emotional Cyberman. He's an emotional inhibitor He
I've heard that
doesn't work. So that was the.
He's mainly angry, though, isn't he?
Exactly. He's
mainly
always
angry.
like pissed off all the time. But it makes for an interesting watch for sure. Yeah.
Is he angry because he suddenly realised he's been cybernized and he's had his life taken away from him?
Yeah, he's bitter about he's lost everything basically in the cyber wars, all that kind of stuff, and he's this all has left is what's left of him, you know. Well, I think all his family's been wiped out by the Cybermen, etc., etc.
Like you see,
and he's got a vendetta against the Cybermen. He's always torturing Cybermen. The line that said he's the Cyberman that makes other Cybermen scream or something. It's a great line.
Like you see, that's a good Doctor Who science fiction concept, and I think that is quite horrific for the Cybermen, having one basically wake up, realizing what's going on, it's gone wrong in the process, and then him doing an Absalom Dak, if you like, and going after.
I was going to say that, yeah.
You know, that's quite interesting, and but you have to maintain that level of story. But from what you're telling me, they got bored with it very quickly, and he got
about 2 episodes in, and then he was killed, basically. So it's.
JT, they were too concerned about rewriting the Doctor's history. You know, he was a little girl who fell off a cliff.
What a shame.
All of that. That's what they were mainly concerned on. I think it's probably the only good idea of the Whittaker era, if you would agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did bring him back in Jodie's last episode, but that was so overcrowded with different things. You barely saw him, you know. So
I forgot that.
Yeah.
It's we've got a lot of discussion over this, of course. Here, this is all good stuff because, of course, as I say, George and I have not watched this series, so I'm actually fascinated, George, by what people are telling us about this. I have another question that I would like to ask as well. Stephen Braddock, the lone Cyberman, is excellent in the Villa episode, but in part 2, he's completely wasted, mixed in with the stupid timeless child crap. Carwin is saying, I like Ashad's costume as it looks more like a Frankenstein monster Cyberman. I like the concept from what the guys are saying to us here. I think that's a good concept.
It's trying to get the idea that Mary Shelley got Frankenstein from this. That's the idea.
However, I also agree with Paul Stentivant here. It says it all sounds like really awful fan fiction to me. It does sound like a new adventure book. It really does, because this is the sort of thing I would have expected to read in either a Virgin or BBC book during the wilderness years. Bill,
I think what was refreshing about it is it was. At the beginning, you thought, oh, this is going to be a very different kind of Cyberman story to what we've had in the whole of New Who. So I think, it was certainly, you thought, going down a very kind of creative and different route. But yeah, as we said, it obviously wasn't executed, which is a shame.
Well, no. Bill was telling me there before, JT, it's Chibnall, don't think about it, don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. I just think it's fascinating. Because when I came across, Bill, those pictures, when I was looking up pictures for Cybermen through the year, I thought, what the hell is this? And then realised it was going to be from a Whittaker episode. But I do think that look of him is quite an interesting concept.
It's intriguing, isn't it? Yeah,
it really is. But obviously they've done it wrong, and now everybody's moved on and forget it, But there you go. And Dean is saying the body conversion should be as horrifying as the lady in Superman film getting turned into a robot. Oh, in Superman 3. Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah, that was quite well done for its day, for a really mediocre.
Actually, a little fun fact on the Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel. Apparently, RTD's original plan was to have to show a 11-year-old child being converted, but the BBC stopped him from doing it apparently. Which actually would have been a great watch.
And that Cyberman ended up in the death zone on Gallifrey, didn't he? Because he's a very little one.
Yeah.
That's where you went.
Yeah.
I do have
very short Cybermen and 5 Doctors, aren't they? Yeah. So
keep your chats coming in, everybody. I do have another question. Is why is this one's mouth the wrong way? Why is he frowning? What's going on here? What is this?
Against another cyber master. I don't know why the mouth is like a frown. It looks really stupid. It really does.
Yeah. Don't tell me it was going to light up in like a disco fashion.
I don't know if it lights up when he spoke. I can't remember. Do you remember, guys, at all? If it lights up like the cybersmen, that does the mouth light up when he speaks? I can't remember.
I've tried to suppress this. So I'm just like, it was one of these things you were just watching it and going through the motions. Otherwise, the TV would have been drop kicked.
Yeah. Really?
It looks like he's just about to go into Sweet Transvestite.
It looks like he's got a harmonica in his mouth, doesn't he?
But this one's silver and these are black.
Yeah, I don't know why they're all black and the silver ones. I don't know why, but
Starlight Express.
Yeah.
If I'm right, they showed the Cybermen Time Lord bit is after the Doctor's whole path had been basically dismantled. I'm sure that. So basically, you're so pissed off at that point what they've done to Doctor Who and to the Doctor and their origin and lore, that this stuff kind of just, I remember, just kind of fall by the wayside. You kind of go through the motions, as you say, Kirsty, when we were watching it. Yeah. I'm getting angry again. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Well, let's go to the chat then and see what they're saying in the chat, because there's lots of conversation about this one. Mudcrab is saying having Shelley get the idea from the Cybermen is that what they did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
she was in the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, the pennies just dropped on me for something there. All right, so having Mary Shelley get the idea from the Cybermen is a backhand insult to the writer. Mary Shelley, one of the most famous women in historical science fiction, got her ideas from a man. Well, wasn't the Doctor a woman at this point?
yeah.
Oops. Atom is saying, so he was the Cyberman equivalent of the good Dalek from Capaldi. Chibnall just ripped the idea off from Moffat. Oh, really? I think
it was better than that, to be fair, which is hard to say, really. But
yeah, because that good Dalek thing, I'd also forgot about Atom, and that didn't go anywhere either. That was just silly, wasn't it?
It did come back in Capaldi's last episode.
Hang on, sorry. Hold on, Emilio, go first.
Sorry, Paul. The good Dalek from Capaldi was a rip-off of Dalek, where the Dalek sent to the Ninth Doctor, you would have made a good Dalek. So probably, they all end up ripping off each other.
Yeah. And Paul, what did you say?
I was going to say, the good Dalek turned up again in Capaldi's last episode with David Bradley.
Did it?
Yeah.
Rusty, that's it, isn't it?
Rusty, that's it.
Rusty.
Yeah.
And so's the show. Craig Dunlop is saying that lone Cyberman story made no sense. Half it was like a Ridley Scott Hovis advert, and it was never clear how it tied to the cyber part of the story. I'm not really surprised having heard that. I really am. A great Cyberman story, says Paul Rounton, would be Killing Ground, a missing adventure book from many, many years ago. It was chilling. Yes, I remember that. That was with the Sixth Doctor, wasn't it? With Colin's version of the Doctor in that one, I seem to recall. Am I right, Paul?
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere, actually. I'm sure I did. Oh, it's way over there somewhere. But yeah, I remember reading that one. It was very interesting, that one. But again, this is what this whole concept of Ashad gets me. It was because, of course, it is fan fiction because it was written by Chibnall, I take it.
Yeah.
Stephen Braddock. I thought the Lone Cyberman was going to be the big villain on the final, but no, they wasted all that potential.
That's right, yeah.
What a shame. What a shame, because it's a great concept. It's just a shame it was done in such a bad way. Richard Brooks, the Cyberlords are mentioned in a BBC novel featuring the Fifth Doctor. The Fifth Doctor is commander-in-chief of a coalition fighting Morbius. These Cyberlords had become benevolent but weren't Time Lords. You see, that's the whole thing where I just go... And it's fine if it's in a novel for fans or if it's in a fanzine for fans or whatever. That's fine because the fans love tying things up and all the continuity and stuff. Personally, I can't be bothered with it, but not on the telly. And it's no wonder the ratings were going down if you had to remember all this sort of stuff and you had these performances and stuff because it just... I don't know.
But kudos to the actor who played the part of the Lone Cyberman. He was very good, I have to say.
Who was that? Do we know who that was?
Patrick someone. I can't remember his surname.
Oh, well, there you go. One of the
he
best.
Massively outshone Jodie Whittaker, but pretty much most actors.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, if Ian was here, he would have just said that. He would have said that for everybody outshone her if Ian was on the show. Talking of Ian, Ian can't be with us tonight because he is very busy, but he wanted me to give one of his memories of this. He said to me, first Cyberpunk was revenge for me. The thrill as they strode onto the Nerva beacon, they looked huge. Then there was the Earthshock reveal, a well-kept secret. We actually, that's him and his friends, I think, we actually expected the Silurians. And then there was that decapitation in Attack. Yeah, so the bit where in the Attack of the Cybermen, you've got that dummy Cyberman, as you can see it now. We're standing there, and then the fist comes through the door and knocks off his head. That took Ian by surprise.
Me too, yeah.
Lex, thank you for your super chat. What was the point of planet Gallifrey coming back in the 50th for the Master to invade and destroy the city of the Time Lords and then change them to Cyberlords? It's rubbish. I would hope to say, hopefully, that they've retconned that, they've forgotten it, they're never going to mention it again, but we are dealing with RTD2, and if he gets a third series or a fourth series, you never know what could happen. I just don't think I don't think the Cybermen are going to come back. I don't think the Daleks are going to come back, but
I don't think Gallifrey. I think actually RTD would my original idea would Gallifrey would destroy. Moffat then retconned that by bringing it back, and then it got destroyed again. So he probably thinking, Yeah, I know. It completely loses the whole emotional drama of the whole kind of, the 50th story and what happened before that. But I'm pretty sure RTD is sitting there going, yeah, like, it's destroyed. We won't.
I was definitely hoping, Emilio, that all of the Jodie Whittaker was in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Because at the end of Twice Upon a Time, she falls to her death, and she loses the TARDIS for a bit, and then I thought, great, they're in a different dimension. And then they did a bit of that in Flux. And I thought, yes, we're going to get, it's not the real Doctor Who world, but it wasn't. I was disappointed.
It still can happen. It's science fiction.
Happen, yeah.
Well, the master could have lied. But also in the 60th, the toy maker did say, I basically fiddled around with your history. So he kind of left it a little bit open ended that it could have all been as kind of the toy maker basically playing games basically.
Yeah. Well, it would be very interesting to see where any future, if we ever get any future cyber stories, will fit into all that. I've had enough of all that nonsense now from the modern era. It's all
me too. Yeah.
Let's have a bit of therapy here as we look at this lovely picture.
Oh, lovely!
Yes,
great location work. That is superb.
Now the Cybermen look fantastic on that location, don't they? They are absolutely. I mean, the natural lighting, as well as of course what the team have put in there. I mean, look at that picture as well. That's a Cyberman, everybody.
And the huge advantage of being shot on film rather than videotape as well.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Yeah. They look great, and they look a lot better in, I think, this is my opinion, they look a lot better on location than they actually did in the studio.
You've got that very harsh open white light just coming down on them. You get no shading, no shadow, nothing.
Yes.
And because the light had to be at that level for the color cameras to record in color.
Yeah.
Because if you took the light down too far, they would only record in black and white.
Again, I think that's where, and this is unfair of me to compare, but obviously that's the lighting why the Earthshock Cybermen work better for me, because they are hidden in shadow a lot of the time, and I love the fact that the Cybermen can hide. They're great big silver giants, but they can hide in shadow so easily, as the Troughton era proved.
I also think Joy, because I also that is it from Revenge of the Cybermen, the picture with the Cybermen in the basically cave or kind of
in Rookie Hall,
that's it. Yeah, so I think that worked quite well because it's in a natural setting and it makes them look, they're they're basically robot cyborg basically. So that contrast between the natural world and them and the difference, it makes them come across. It really kind of emphasizes who they are and what they are. Then if you just put them in like a spaceship or kind of any sort of like kind of techie kind of environment, I think they just kind of blend into the background. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think you're right there. I mean, because another time I think the costumes work really well is the Antarctic sets in the 10th Planet. The scenes where they're disguised in the parkas and that sort of stuff. The reveal at the end of episode 1, and again, all that was shot on film at Ealing. They look very, very good there.
Yeah,
coming through the snow, super. Yeah.
More of that coming next week, of course, here on Who's Views as we review the 10th Planet. Make sure you get time to watch it and come and join us with your views on that story. Great story. Graham is saying to us, I remember visiting Wookiee Hole shortly after Revenge, and they had a poster up advertising that Doctor Who had been filmed there. I remember hearing in the 90s, Graham, that it was still there. Because I never got to Wookiee Hole, but friends of mine did, and they would say, "Oh, there's a poster saying that Doctor Who was filmed," and they were playing on that still in the 90s, which I think is just the magic of Doctor Who all over. Paul Routner saying to us, "My earliest fascination and fear of the Cybermen actually came from the original Target novelizations, where the origin of the Cybermen was prefaced, and it was excellent." I remember being thrilled by that as well. Wasn't that great of the Target novels just to fill in that bit for you there back in the day, because we didn't have anything else.
The strength of 10 men replacing limbs with plastic, etc. All that good stuff.
I've always remembered that, and that's something that, again, I mean, Emilio and Kirsty can't appreciate this, but because of those Target novels, when they came back in the new version, and it was all hydraulics, and I remember thinking, no, they've got the strength of 10 men in that case, and 10 human beings they've been given. We should be able to see that, and instead it was just sort of, C-3PO all over. I don't know. What a shame.
I seem to remember that. Because Jerry Davis wrote the first 3 Target Cyberman novels, and each time he updated that preface a bit to include the previous stories.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
Yeah. And make them all tie together. And he actually used the continuity that he put in the books, if I remember rightly, rather than the TV series. Like 10th Planet took place in the year 2000 and stuff
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
What used to annoy me about one of the Target novels was Tomb of the Cybermen had the wrong Cyberman on the front. That should drive me crazy, I have to say.
It did, yeah. A lovely picture by Mr. Cummins, though. But yeah,
definitely great picture.
I've got a story about that because I remember being given that as a present and opening it and going, "Oh, it's a Doctor Who book. I haven't got this one," and then realizing what story it was and going. I said because I was young. I remember saying something like, "You've got to get the right cover" or something like that. You've got to take this back and get me the right cover.
Even then.
Even then, that's what we are like, though, as Who fans.
Yeah.
We are all that bad. Lex Kane, thank you again for your super chat. Fantastic appearance of Pertwee meeting the Cybermen in the 5 Doctors. And on top of that, Taylor Durden Smile is getting in touch with us. Say, sorry for arriving so late. Well, where have you been? Have we mentioned the Rastan Warrior robot chopping up Cybermen was my favourite battle in the 5 Doctors? Yeah, I mean, at least Pertwee got to meet them eventually, George.
Yeah, but can we also say that Pertwee met them on stage in The Ultimate Adventure?
No, you can't. Move on.
And he made a cameo in the Carnival of Monsters as well, briefly.
And The Mind of Evil.
And War Games. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was something that I think Terrence wanted to rectify as well, wasn't it? Really, giving the Pertwee a moment with the Cybermen. What can you say about it? It's a lovely scene, isn't it? It was a wish come true, and the 20th anniversary year, guys. It was. You just thought, oh, at last. And then this bloody other silver thing turns up and steals the limelight from John.
Yeah. Great character. Yeah.
It's great, that Rastan Warrior robot. The way it destroys the Cybermen, though, in seconds, it's just.
I think all the Cybermen are drunk, though. They stagger around in that slate quarry quite badly, don't they?
Yeah. But you're right, Lex. It was a great one to see it. And it was nice to have the Cybermen. The Cybermen became, of course, the big villain in the 5 Doctors, really. Let's face it, didn't they? Because they were there, and it was nice to see them again. Stephen Braddock, my favourite story is The Invasion. It was epic, and I feel if it all existed, it would be equal in status to Tomb. I remember episode 4 being so good with the Doctor and Jamie escaping IE. I actually think... Yeah, I don't know if it would be on a par with, or if it was fully completed, just above. Because it is more epic than, in my eyes, the Tomb of the Cybermen. I just think it's just so broad and just huge, and it's like a big Bond film in style.
It is,
well.
it is, and Tobias Vaughan's like a Bond villain, isn't he?
He's very classy.
Yeah, superb. Yeah.
Very classy and a lovely performance. Atom is saying to us, I got a minute. One more thing, lore-wise. The Time Lords Cybermen were all killed off by the death particle, including Gallifrey. All life, millions of years it's back. Planet is now Trenzalore. Thanks, Atom. But we'll move on. We're talking about proper Cybermen now. I'm bored with all that new stuff. I have no clue what he said in that one either. I was just like, oh my God, what was all that about?
I saw, and I'm a bit confused as well, I have to say. But
oh, thanks for that, Atom. Ooh, says Graham, I was planning a rewatch of 10th Planet. Well, isn't that just spooky, my little darling? Because, yes, next week, as I say, you can come back and tell us what you think of the 10th Planet. Such an important story in so many ways, because, of course, not only does it give us the first appearance of the Cybermen, but there's that other little thing that happens at the end of it. That other British television.
I wish they would find part 4. That'd be lovely if they did. That'd be very nice, yeah.
Well, let's have a look. Yeah. Let's have a look. Carbon's getting ahead of himself by giving a score on the TARDIS door. 10th Planet, 10 out of 10. Couldn't wait till next week. Well, no more of them. No more. You got to come back and watch us next week to give you scores on the TARDIS door, you cheeky little Carwin, you. Cheeky Carwin. Who wrote that prologue, says Richard? Was it Jerry Davis?
In the Target books, yes, it was.
Yeah. He had a lovely style of writing, though, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
There's something very engaging as a 10-year-old or whatever, and even into your 11, 12, 13s, the way he writes. I'm going to have to go back and as an adult now and go back and see if I'm enjoying his writing just as much as I did as a kid, because it was just so engaging.
He wrote the Highlanders as well, didn't he?
I like the Highlanders. That book, I really got into the Highlanders. I thought this is going to be boring. I'm never going to see it. No. And it was a great story the way he was writing. You really get into the action. Wow, what talent!
Yeah, Jerry Davis. I mean, his books are page turners.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good way of saying that. Julie Wendy, the great scene in Attack of the Cybermen is when Brian Glover's character mocks them by saying, "Getting a bit rough, is it?" Or "Getting a bit rough, is it?" Before he gets his head squeezed. It's classic.
Yeah.
Again, bringing home the strength element of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
You know, which, as I say, just doesn't seem to be there in the modern one. And Forbidden Manison, I loved them coming out of the sewers. Funny, none of them. What's this? Funny, none of the had any Richards on them. I don't know what that means. Type that again, Forbidden Man. We'll put it up again because I'm sorry, I can't read that one. Don't know what that says.
Yeah, the scene at St. Paul's is brilliant. Iconic Doctor Who moment. Yeah, superb. And I love when they come out the sewers in the recap. You get an extra bit of the sewers coming out, which is really nice, really lovely.
Yeah. It's a good job no one was standing around though. More about that coming in 2 weeks.
I'd imagine it was polystyrene, GT. To be honest.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yeah, it was a fake sewer cover.
You've ruined it now, you two, you spoils. But Sean Cryer is saying what George always says about this: that Pertwee let it slip before the Five Doctors that the Cybermen were coming back to see him, much to John Nathan Turner's chagrin.
Yeah,
he did, didn't he? It was at the Longleat event in 1983, wasn't it? Where he just went. What was it, George? You tell your story
about what?
John telling people at Longleat.
That's not me.
Oh, it wasn't you? Well, somebody was on the channel. We talked about it before.
Yeah, so that wasn't me.
And basically, John was there, and somebody said, "Do you, along the lines of, do you regret not meeting the Cybermen?" He said, "No, I never met the Cybermen until now," or something like that, and he let it slip.
Or yet, or something like that.
Yeah. What else we got here? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been a really good show. I'm glad you've enjoyed this. What else? Richard Brooks is saying the Raston robot is a clever idea. I remember at the time a lot of people clamoring to get the Raston robot back with the Cybermen to finish them off even more as a big sort of, that would have been what you would call today a special episode, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
But some things deserve just the one shot, I think. That's why he's
gone down. Alien versus Predator, Raston robot versus Cybermen, something like that. Yeah.
That would be quite fun, wouldn't it? What else we got here? TARDIS Travels saying, I once got attacked by a Cyberman in the Doctor Who exhibition in Blackpool. The person inside got a bit carried away.
Can you find out what the date was for that? Because I made a cameo they wanted the Cyberman, so interesting to know when that was.
Absolutely. If it was the infamous 1985 Children in Need Day where Colin, Nicola, John, Anne, and the Cybermen were all around, was it that time? Because that's where
it was that time. But I arrived after Colin had left.
Yes, so TARDIS Travels was at that time because there were a lot of them around and they were pretty good.
And as a consolation prize, the people who worked there were kind enough to let us try on the costumes and play around with them, which was great. It was lovely. Yeah. So
if you remember back in the day, it was commonplace for somebody to be in one of the monster costumes outside the Blackpool exhibition to get people to come in.
Yes,
I've got a photograph of 10-year-old me being menaced by the revenge cyber leader outside the big police box entrance of the Blackpool exhibition.
Fabulous. Mrs. Lisa Pertwee is with us saying, who remembers the wooden Cyberman? Ha ha ha. Okay, moving on. I had completely forgotten that.
In Time of the Doctor, that was bizarre, wasn't it? Yeah.
What was that about again? Remind me.
It was Matt Smith's last episode, and the all the Cybermen and Daleks kept attacking, and they kept wiping them out. But for some reason, there was a wooden one. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know why. Wooden Cyberman. How does that work, really, honestly? Yeah.
Yeah. It was something about them hiding, or like it was kind of almost like it was a way for them to get in, because it was Forfield, right? Or something with Transalore, and it basically became wooden to hide. It wasn't really explained very well.
Yeah, did he do the gag? The Sonic doesn't do wood or something like that? Probably, yeah.
You see, it's another one of those Who things that I've completely dismissed from my memory banks because it was probably just rubbish. I remember actually being very upset for Matt with those things because he got written out very quickly because of other things that we may or may not know about. But I just thought, what terrible way to go! And I didn't like the Cybermen in them either because it was that sleeky version, look like Iron Man, like you said earlier.
They look like toys, don't they? That's the problem.
Well, that's the whole thing. That was the idea, wasn't it? Yeah. It was supposed to be a toy. I mean, sometimes these people these days make things up like the Cybermen now to look like, oh, what's it going to look like as a toy? And as somebody said in the chat before, on the new ones as well, let me just read Neville there. Invasion is much better than Tomb. Tomb suffers from a predictable formulaic story. Thank you for that, mate.
Well, based on just Siege, which is fine.
Yeah, but the new ones, like that a lot of people were saying that light thing in the middle there was taken directly from the Iron Man films.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it for anyway? Have they ever explained it? No, I don't think
No.
they did. In our day, of course, it was a ventilation system, wasn't it, where the gold would.
Yeah,
into
you could
it.
grate gold or cheese, anything you wanted on it. It's fine. Yeah.
Jason, hello, Jason Parker. The hand squeezing in Attack of the Cybermen with the bloody hand is one image which will never leave my mind, showing the utter terror the Cybermen can inflict. Well, yeah, it was brought up again in 1985, wasn't it? When certain people were complaining about the horrific value. Mrs. Whitehouse did not like that. I don't know why she bothered tuning in, because she didn't like Doctor Who at all. She watched it for 25 years, but I don't know why she was bothering. She was a huge fan. She pushed up the ratings every week, that woman, did she? Bless her. God bless her. Actually, we could do with somebody here back now in this day and age, I'm sure. Stephen is saying to us, this has been a fantastic overview tonight. So many great memories. Thank you for that. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And Lex is asking, didn't they copy the scene of St. Paul's scene of the Cybermen in Capaldi's first Cybermen? In Cardiff? Well, actually, no, it was filmed in the same location, wasn't it? And again, that's another fan thing, isn't it? Why?
Yeah. And it has no gravitas at all. It's got no impact. It just looks crap, you know?
It looks rubbish. It just looked...
They did it better in More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, I think, the documentary, when they did it with Colin and Nicola. That was much better, you know?
Oh, that was lovely, that little tribute. But it was a tribute. This was a plain copy for the fans only. And it was totally unnecessary. It could have been anywhere that. It could have been on an alien world. But no, we had to do it. Oh, let's go back to St. Paul's and do it, a modern version of it. And it didn't work. It wasn't as iconic as we will see in our review of The Invasion, everybody.
Gimmicky, isn't it? It's just a gimmick. It doesn't have any purpose.
That's all it is. Yeah, you're right, Emilio. So thanks for that, Lex. Nice to see you.
Just on that, going off topic ever so slightly, there's some photographs of a scene that was cut from George Lazenby's Bond movie on Majesty's Secret Service, where Bond is on exactly the same steps outside St. Paul's Cathedral as the Cybermen. And then somebody online has used Photoshop to merge the Cybermen onto it.
Now that's a film I'd see. Bond versus the Cybermen. Oh, yes. Bring it on. Somebody get onto the broccolis, as I call it.
Maybe James Bond lady can be the Cyberwoman for the episode.
No, Emilio causing problems yet again on the channel. We've got this from Lee Patton. Nice to see you, Lee. Is it rumour that the Cybermen were meant to be in Frontier in space instead of the Ogrons, or is this just fan fiction? I've never got to the bottom of that one. Have either of you?
Was the original idea for one of the... Was it a Pertwee one or a Trout one? Was it Planet of the Daleks or Evil of the Daleks? It was supposed to be the Daleks versus the Cybermen.
That was Wheel in Space, George, I think.
Was that Wheel in Space?
Yeah.
Okay, and Terry Nation wouldn't play ball with it.
That's right,
Yeah. Which is a shame, really, because the kids would have loved that just as much as the kids did back in 2006. Even I got a little bit of a thrill to see the Daleks.
I love that. Yeah, I love that line about, this is not war, it's pest control. That was brilliant.
Brilliant line. Absolutely classic line. I loved that. I just thought, yes, that's exactly it. But the Daleks putting their foot down, metaphorically speaking, the same way. Who are you lot? Zap.
Yeah.
Isn't it? They say there's one thing you're more superior than us at, and that's dying.
And then they proved the point by zapping them all one by one. Brilliant.
But it was a bit like handbags at dawn with the Daleks and Cybermen at some points, wasn't it? They were a bit kind of bitching at each other a bit, weren't they?
Typical RTD writing there. Hello and welcome to Who's Views. Dark Hull, nice to see you. And you were there at the Blackpool exhibition in 1985. It was great fun. I remember you. I saw you. Yes, I do. I think most of us were there on that day. What a day that was, because there were more fans there than I think I've ever seen, even at things like the Panopticons, the old Panopticons and stuff, because the whole of Blackpool was just filled with Doctor Who fans, and you could tell. You could tell we were all there. And then that whole thing outside the Blackpool exhibition, I was actually downstairs, stuck down there when Colin and Nicola and John arrived, but we could hear all the applause coming down the corridor, and then one of the Cybermen coming in from what we know to be the shop, coming in and telling somebody, and then there was an announcement saying the Doctor has arrived, and then there was all this like and the Cyberman's like boo boo. It was just a happy day. Happy day. But thank you. Welcome, Dark Hole. It's nice to see you all, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here on Who's Views. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you have. You do subscribe to the channel. If you have subscribed to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. It's great to see you. Babette Bombshell, hiya, how are you? It's always struck me odd that the Cybermen don't employ pheromones to make humanity love them, or envy cyber technology. That'd be hormones, I say. To make humanity love them, or envy cyber technology, or convert out of a heightened fear of death. I think the comics have done it, though. I think the nearest we've got to that is that awful Nightmare in Silver thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I said awful. Isn't that the nearest we've got to that nonsense? I don't know.
The only good thing in Nightmare in Silver was the lovely cyber mites. They were great, I like them.
Yeah. And Max
Remember them?
acting
They were quite nice. Yeah,
very good. But apart from that, terrible. Yeah. And the children were so annoying.
But we can't talk about that episode because it's been cancelled, hasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, allegedly. It's still there at the moment. I forgot about the kids in that. You see, I've written all that off because it was just so boring and dull.
The kids were awful. Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah.
No, it's true. They were awful, I seem to remember. Any thoughts on the Cybermen's origin story in Spare Parts from Bog Fanish? That is one of the best of their stories I had the pleasure to listen to. It was superb. It was the Fifth Doctor in this, for those of you who don't know. And it was on Mondas. The realization from Davison's Doctor, the way he plays that through audio, where he realizes where he is and the horror of that. Well done, Peter.
It's really good, and Darren Nesbitt's in it as well, who plays.
Right. And Sally Inetti from Blake 7. It's a great story. It's horrific. I don't understand why it didn't transfer to television properly, because of course Mark Platt got a credit for The Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel, didn't he?
That's why I think they did an alternate universe, so not to dump on that story, I think, which is surprisingly thoughtful of them, I thought,
Yeah, you wouldn't get that.
Don't normally do that, do they? So
it's one of the few, Paul, I would recommend to somebody like George who may not have listened to something like that, because you can't get it. It's one of the few, I would say, really go and listen to it, because it's very good and it's very respectful. It's a great solid script, great performance from Peter as the Doctor. And Sarah and everybody else that's in it. The horror of the Cybermen being born. It's a film, that script. That's all I'm saying on that one. It's a film. And also, it's coming out in the new Bog Fanish range of their versions of the Target style books that they're doing. And I'm actually even playing with buying that one as well, because I would like to read it. But they're doing this version, if you don't know everybody, allegedly they're doing this version of their own novels of stories they've done over the last 30,000 years, and Spare Parts is one of the first ones, along with Chimes of Midnight, I hear.
And the good thing about it is it's just the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa, so just the two of them. So there's no Adric.
No annoying Tegan.
Really good, So
and there is there's that reference to Adric in it as well, which brings in the fan element, the fan pleasing element. Where they go through that.
But as the genesis of the Cyberman story, it's really good, really good. Yeah.
Look at this. Now that's brought up things here. Paul Routner is saying Spare Parts is the best Cyberman story, hands down. Richard, Spare Parts is the only Bog Fanish story I owned. What else? Well, Julianne, Spare Parts, chills. Bill Lowry, Spare Parts, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It was actually. It is, and that voice.
It's quite disturbing in places as well, which I think really works to its best. Really, it's really good. Yeah.
And it's not like me, as you all know, to actually recommend that, but I would recommend that because it's just a great cyber story.
It's an early one as well, which makes a difference.
Which makes it better when we were all really engaged with them and supporting them. It really is good. William Orlock 86 is saying Sally is a great highlight as Dr. Manallan. Mr. Briggs' voice work was excellent, playing Zeng with a distinctly deeper voice like Patrick Stewart. I mean, I would recommend that. And as I say, I think you can still possibly at some parts find it on the vinyl as well. I'm not following them now, but go and look for it.
You can probably get it as a download from Big Finish's website as well, because they do it really cheap, like for £3 or something on the download system that they have, because I think it's out of print now. You can't buy it on CD.
It's certainly something I would say go and listen to over anything I know about the Chibnall era. From what you guys were telling me tonight about this, I would say write all that off and go and listen to that instead.
Listen to that.
And it's a proper genesis of the Cybermen type story as well, which for me, the new version of Doctor Who didn't manage to pull off well. And I don't know, it's a shame. It's a shame. Just
it oozes atmosphere, which is really good. For a radio play, it's superb, honestly. Yeah.
Well, listen, everybody, we've come to the end of our time on this particular one. Mark is actually saying, look, it's available on Spotify.
There you are.
There you go. There you go.
George is on it now, I can see.
Yeah. This is the start, everybody, as I've said, of our Cyber Chat series. I hope you've enjoyed this one. We've got lots planned for you into next year as we celebrate what will be the Cybermen's 60th anniversary. Ever just imagine. Isn't that amazing? Who knows where we're going to be as a series, though, in 2026. You've got to stay with us. Make sure you're subscribed. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like for this particular one. I hope you have enjoyed it. Join us next week for Whose Views Reviews, the 10th Planet. The week after that, we'll be looking at The Invasion. More coming up with that as we go through. To Paul, to Kirsty, to George, to Emilio, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for being here. It wouldn't be the same without you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
Make sure you don't get cybernized. Look at this. This is a bubble bath. Isn't that brilliant? Look at that. Yeah. That is a bubble bath, everybody. Isn't it great? Look at it. Oh,
it's a new series, Cyberman, though. This is much better. This is much better.
Oh, yeah, they are. But you didn't get a new series bubble bath. I love that. An old series bubble bath. It's slightly flared, though. Look.
Yeah. So, that's a tribute to the Revenge of the Cybermen, isn't it? Yeah.
Huge boots, which I don't like. But no, that's it. But anyway, that's us for tonight. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. We will be back very shortly. Stay with us. From all of us on the panel, ta-ra. Have a good night. Look after yourself. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night.